I forget what I do has a hearing. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December 11th, 2025 Air Pollution Control District San Diego County Governing Board regular meeting. We'll go ahead and get the call to order. Clerk, can you go ahead and please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Bush. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that members Burkbeck Garcia, Gomez, and Lawson Reno will be absent from today's proceedings. All remaining board members are participating in person. With that, Member AIRE. Here. Member Campbell. Here. Member Duncan.
Present. Thank you.
Member Fitzgerald. Member Gloria.
Here.
Member Cabal. Here. Member Strickland. Chair Bush.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we do have a quorum. We will move on to item B. This is the non-agenda public comments. Before we begin with that, I'm going to go ahead and restrict the comments to 2 minutes. We do have a heavy agenda. We have lots of public comments, and I think a couple of us have to leave at 4:30. So, Clerk, could you go ahead and see if any members of the public wish to speak on a non-agenda item?
Thank you, Chair Bush. We have 3 members of the public that wish to speak, 2 in person and 1 virtually. I'll call those that are in the room first. I believe it's TJ River.
That's, yeah, it sounds like that's. Yes, so
Steve Egger.
but that does not appear. Steve Egger.
Are you speaking on an item that's not on the agenda?
Non-agenda public comment.
Okay, you can come to the podium. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Robert Stephen Egger. I go by Steve because there's too many generations of Robert. I've lived on our family's dairy land all my 72 years down in the Tijuana Valley. Back when we had cows and grew alfalfa in our Tijuana Valley, it was clean and abundant with wildlife. The river used to run occasionally during the rainy season. And in 1993, the river changed its route to the north. This new path is north of Sunset Avenue and merges with the Tocayo Creek. This new path does not flow well. It's much narrower than the original southern river and is overgrown with vegetation. The elevation changes, so it ponds and floods much of our northern valley. This new northern river is much closer to southern San Diego and our Imperial Beach communities. That also increases our stench. Many residents wish to see this northern river diverted to the original Tijuana River, which was south of this location. The last 3 years, this northern river has run continuously with a horrible stench. I have spoken with many of our community members in Imperial Beach, San Diego, and San Isidro, and many of them, or some of them, they're in tears. I mean, mothers with their children, and they state, we cannot afford to move, and they just told me they're terribly worried about their family's health. And even some of them, they have serious health conditions from this toxic Tijuana River, they told me, and members that are just in bad shape. And even some of their pets are sick and have conditions I don't want to mention. On 2 different occasions, I've actually had physical contact with this river due to our family operations and what we do in that valley. And both times I've been seriously ill.
Sir, please wrap up because the time is expired.
Okay, I've been seriously ill with flu-like symptoms. Over the last 2 years, I've had a cough with sinus issues and a headache. The last year I've been battling with cancer. And as a member of the Otay Mesa Nestor Planning Group, I give a Tijuana subcommittee report every meeting, and I'm just asking everyone, pressure our governor, declare a state of emergency also.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lori Saldana. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and you can self-regulate your time using the timer that's on the screen.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Lori Saldana. I was the legislative representative for San Diego for 6 years, and before that, I was a presidential appointee to a cross-border infrastructure development board, and also was a research fellow at the Center for U.S.-Mexico Studies at UCSD. And I focused my study on the situation at the border and the complexities of solving a transboundary infrastructure challenge. I also, in my spare time, 26 years ago, took my private sailboat out with a researcher from Scripps, who also is now doing research in Mexico, to observe what happens when the effluent from the existing treatment plant, then at a much lower rate of discharge, met with the ocean. It's warmer water, it's fresh water, it jets to the surface and spreads out. You can see it, you can smell it. And the initial federal impact report stated 16 primary pollutants of concern were coming through that plant. This is from 30 years ago, including arsenic, beryllium, cadmium, chromium, copper, cyanide, lead, mercury, nickel, silver, zinc, total hydrochloric, lindane, aldrin, DDT, and carbon disulfide. All of those things have been identified as going into the treatment plant because there is no industrial source control pre-treatment program. I would ask the city of San Diego to partner with Tijuana and use the technology the city of San Diego has very well established to industrial source control and reduce the amount of waste, the lead, the mercury, these other things that are ending up in that sewage that goes into the treatment plant and then is discharged. It is not removed. It is only an advanced primary plant. And so if any of you have the opportunity to go with one of the city's ships offshore or the regional water control board ships offshore over that treatment plant outfall, you will see and smell that it is not doing the job. It is simply transferring the pollutants offshore, and those are blowing back and contributing to some of these problems you're going to discuss today. So that's my recommendation. Go and see what's going on offshore as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Fruit. She's joining us virtually. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Please come off with mute. State your name for the record. Looks like she's no longer on the virtual meeting. That concludes comments under non-agenda public comment.
Thank you, clerk. We'll move on to item number C, approval of the regular October 9th, 2025 statement of proceedings, the minutes. Clerk, do we have any members of the public who wish to address this on this item?
We have no public testimony on this item.
All right, can I get a motion from the board? Motion from member Educator, second from member Campbell. Now for a second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? With members Burkbeck, Garcia, Gomez, and Lawson Reamer absent, that motion passes with the report members who are present voting on.
All right, moving on to item D, which is the consent, and it looks like we have one item on consent. Clerk, could you see if there's any members of the public that wish to pull this item for consent, or if there's any of my colleagues that will vote as well?
Thank you, Chair Bush. I would like to first note for the record that members Sigler Granavas has joined the meeting. We have not received any requests from the public to pull any items from consent onto the regular agenda.
All right, with that, can I, any questions from the board? Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from member Duncan, a second from member Coldwell. We'll call for both.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? With members. I'm sorry, that motion adopts a resolution entitled Resolution Authorizing the Air Pollution Control Officer to enter a quit claim for an easement for citing an air quality monitoring station located on County of San Diego property in Escondido. With members Burkbeck, Garcia, Gomez, and Lawson Reamer absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Okay, clerk, moving on to the regular agenda, item E, we will hear D1 is public hearing proposed amendments to Rule 40 permits and other fees. The public hearing is now open. Clerk, can you go ahead and make the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Bush. Per the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is now closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
We'll have the Director Watt.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair Bush and Board members. My name is Mike Watt, Rural District. Today's hearing is to receive a presentation on the proposed amendments to Rule 40, which is our permit and other fees regulation. No action is requested at this hearing, as it is only for considering and taking public testimony on settings. Next slide, please. Rule 40 sets the fees for district permitting and other services such as inspections, source testing, and emissions inventory related to the implementation of region-wide permitting and regulatory programs of stationary source of air pollution. Stationary sources encompass a wide variety of operations, including large industrial facilities such as power plants, smaller commercial establishments such as dry cleaners and gas stations, and asbestos renovations and demolition acts. Next slide, please. In July of 2020, the state auditor issued a report which identified that district stationary source fee-related expenses were not being fully recovered, and included a recommendation to increase fees annually by the maximum percentage allowed until the district's revenue from fees is equal to the full cost of the program. In fiscal year 21-22, the district completed its first cost recovery study, which provided a tool for understanding current service levels and the cost and demand for those services. That tool has been used to bring forward updated cost recovery packages annually that have been approved by the board and implemented over each of the last 5 fiscal years. Next slide, please. The district uses a comprehensive cost recovery analysis model that has been consistently used over the past several years and is a widely adopted approach to cost analysis. First, the district identifies inputs, including the current year adopted budget, to identify all direct support, such as staff conducting inspections, with source testing and reviewing permit applications, and indirect support associated with those activities, including permit processing, rule development, human resources, finance, IT, things of that nature. Next, as staff work on projects that code their time to each permit and record type, we use that time data to determine the time it takes to perform individual services, regardless of how many are performed. We analyze that data, including determining if there are outliers that may skew the data and remove those to ensure fairness. While doing those time estimate reviews, we determine if the time data shows varying times to perform the service, or if the times are consistent, and we also look at how many of each of those services we provide over a period of time. This helps us determine if a flat fee or an hourly time and materials charge is the most appropriate. Then we calculate hourly rates by using salary and benefit costs, as well as services and supplies. We do all this while working with the external consulting firm to ensure the methodology is accurate. Next slide, please. For this year, district staff worked with our consultant, Matrix Consulting Group, to update the cost recovery study analysis from last fiscal year based on new inputs associated with staffing, costs, and workload, as well as any changes in fee structures. It's important to note that each year the estimated cost, revenue, and deficit amounts will change based on the most recent analysis. For fiscal year 26-27 cost recovery model, the district project team made the following fee updates. The updated model to include changes in costs reflected in the board adopted fiscal year 25-26 budget, such as salaries and benefits, cost changes resulting from the updated workload volume, and updated revenue projections based on prior year board adopted fee increases. Conversion of fees for all applications to time and materials to ensure that fees more accurately reflect the actual staff time and resources required to process each application, thereby promoting fairness and cost recovery across permit types. Fees for registration applications, which are generally more standardized and require less staff time, are proposed to remain fixed to maintain consistency and predictability for applicants. We're proposing the addition of a new provision to recover costs for the staff effort associated with preparing emissions inventory reports for specific types of facilities, as required by recent amendments to state law, which resulted in a significant expansion in the number of permits and pollutants subject to emission inventory requirements. These changes in state law are increasing the number of facilities subject to emission inventory requirements from approximately 200 to over 4,500 facilities per year. Currently, the district does not have a dedicated revenue source to recover the costs of implementing emission inventory requirements for these specific facilities, which tend to be smaller and less complex when compared to facilities that have been historically inventoried and are subject to the time and materials fee provisions that were implemented as part of last year. As a result, these costs have been covered through a combination of other funding sources rather than fees for service, which conflicts with the district's audit findings requiring that fee-related services should be offset by fee-related revenue. Under the proposed revisions, these smaller, less complex facilities would pay a flat rate of $259 in lieu of the time and materials emission inventory. The facilities subject to inventory requirements would either pay this proposed new fixed fee or the existing T&M fee. They would not be billed. Examples of facilities subject to this proposed fixed emission inventory fee can include gas stations, auto body shops, facilities operating emergency engines, things of that nature. These proposed updates and changes are reflected in the revised Rule 40 fee schedules that are posted on the district website as next slide, please. Based on the model updates related to staffing, projected costs, and new emission inventory provisions discussed on the previous slide, the annual revenue, cost, and deficit is calculated. The information on this slide is a breakdown of where the district currently stands, attaining maximum cost recovery for fee-related services that support the district's stationary source, permitting, and regulatory programs. When comparing estimated fiscal year 25-26 fee-related expenses of $16.4 million with fee-related revenue of $14.7 million based on fiscal year 24-25 workload, the district is under recovering its costs by approximately $1.7 million, or recovering approximately 90% of annual fee-related costs for stationary source program expenses. It's important to note two key factors. For the emissions inventory category, this includes both the current T&M fee and the new proposed fixed. The low cost recovery percentage for that fee category reflects that there is currently no dedicated fee-related revenue for the new proposed fixed fee. Those activities are currently offset by other funding sources, similar to how the current deficit for other categories is also offset by other funding. Adding the proposed new fixed fee provision in Rule 40 would allow the district to recover the costs associated with providing emissions inventory facilities to the facilities subject to this provision. Second, the categories shown here represent estimated revenue and costs for a range of services provided under each fee schedule and are not inclusive of other non-fee related components within a program. The annual cost is only reflective of fee-related support provided for the stationary source, permitting, and regulatory service. It does not encompass the entire program. As an example, the district has a mobile source inspection program whose cost is not included in this calculation, as that cost is not permit or fee related. Next slide, please. The California Health and Safety Code states that the district has the ability to increase individual fees for service for permit to operate and authority to construct permits, as long as the total revenue for those fee categories does not exceed 15% in a single year. As such, district staff is proposing a fiscal year 26-27 cost recovery scenario, which applies a maximum 15% increase to applications, renewals, source testing, and time and materials. We are also proposing a maximum 10% increase to administrative processing fees and 4% increases to asbestos and T&M emissions. The range of proposed changes varies by fee schedule based on several factors, including the cost to perform the specific services included in each category and how close those individual fees are to attaining maximum cost recovery for that service. While the recommended maximum fee percentage increase is 15%, each individual fee is evaluated to ensure that it does not exceed the maximum justifiable full cost fee calculated through the cost recovery model. Where appropriate, reductions to specific fee schedules are being recommended to ensure they do not exceed maximum recovery. Under this recommended proposal, the district would be projected to increase its estimated overall fee for service cost recovery from 90% to approximately 97%. Slide, please. Proposed fiscal year 26-27 amendments to Rule 40 include additional split payment flexibility for payment of application fees, clarifications on the applicability of certain processing, application, permit revision, and late fees, consolidation of asbestos fees, and revisions to various fees consistent with the recommendations from the consultant, as detailed in attachment B of the board pack. As discussed on the previous slide, this proposal includes recommendations to increase various fees by up to 15% based on the current cost recovery estimates for each individual fee schedule, as well as reductions to specific fee schedules for a program. As noted previously, the proposed revisions also include the addition of a new fixed fee to recover costs for staff effort associated with preparing emission inventory reports for specific types of smaller facilities and conversion of permit application fees to time and material. Next slide, please. These proposed recommendations will allow the district to remain consistent by focusing on increasing revenues across all fee categories to increase its fee for service cost recovery. Under the recommended proposal, the district would be projected to increase its estimated fee revenue by approximately $1.2 million and decrease its projected deficit from $1.7 million to approximately $475,000. Next slide, please. When the district first started this process in 2021, the overall fee for service cost recovery for stationary source permitting and regulatory activities was estimated at approximately 66%. The board's action on fees to date over the past 5 years have increased the district's estimated overall fee for service cost recovery percentage for these programs to approximately 90%. This is the 6th year of conducting the study and update, and the fees proposed fiscal year 26-27 revisions are projected to increase overall cost recovery percentage to approximately 97%. The original study estimated that it would take the district more than 5 years to get to maximum cost recovery, barring any major operational and cost changes. The district has made substantial progress towards achieving maximum fee-related cost recovery. Cost recovery percentage will fluctuate from year to year based on a variety of factors such as negotiated salary and benefit increases, staffing vacancy rates, changes in program workload volumes, and the cost of services and supplies needed to perform stationary source related. Next slide, please. As part of our stakeholder engagement process, a public workshop was held in October 2025 to proactively seek input from stakeholders related to the proposed emission inventory fixed fee provision that is included in this proposal. The workshop was recorded and posted on the district's website. The district also reached out to over 15,000 permit holders, stakeholders, and industry groups through direct mailings, emails sent out to subscribers, and the posting of information on the district website and social media accounts about the October workshop, today's public hearing, and the upcoming February meeting. Today's hearing is the first of 2 scheduled public hearings and is for considering and taking public testimony on the proposed amendments to District 40. The governing board will consider adoption of the proposed amendments at a future hearing scheduled for February 12, 2026. If adopted at February's hearing, the proposed new emission inventory provisions will become effective immediately to align with the annual emission inventory data collection period. And the remaining proposed amendments to Rule 40 will become effective on July 1st, 2026, which will allow for testing of the new fees, revised invoicing, and continued outreach to stakeholders prior to. Next slide, please. This concludes today's presentation, and we're available for any.
Thank you, Mike. Do any board members have technical questions or clarification before we move on to public comment? Okay, seeing none. Quick.
Thank you. We have one request to speak on this item, Jack Munger. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Thank you, Chair Bush, members of the board. My name is Jack Munger. I represent the Industrial Environmental Association, and we are representing today approximately 45 manufacturing companies in the San Diego region, as well as a whole host of environmental health and safety professionals in the county. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I want to thank the staff for the outreach that they've been conducting all these months on this topic. We have submitted a comment letter to the staff and to the board. I just really want to emphasize 3 points in that comment letter here today. The first is is efficiency. We keep talking about cost recovery, and I really would like to see us focus also on efficiency. Are we minimizing the costs? Are we maximizing the efficiency we get out of the engineers who work on these different permits and these different reviews? Are we doing everything we can to make sure we control those costs? Because certainly they're going to keep rising. And right now, that time and materials cost is over $300 an hour. I don't have a consulting engineer in my association who charges over $300 an hour for time and materials on anything. They wouldn't get away with it with their customers. So it's a steep price, and what we would be looking for in acknowledgement of that is that there is also some transparency. We would really like to see that the time and material sheets, or I should say the billings that go out to our clients, to our members, and include a lot of detail about what those 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours of charges covered, what was done, as opposed to just 3 or 4 hours. And I've already relayed this to Paul and her staff, but I really just wanted to reiterate it here today with you. And I also wanted to let you know that we appreciate in the conversations we've had with staff over the last couple of months, they immediately came back and said one of the ways we'll help your members avoid sticker shock is to provide periodic updates on how the process is working over the period of months. Give us like a monthly bill update. So we appreciate that very much, and thank you for the opportunity here today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item. And I'd also like to note for the record that Member Fitzgerald has joined the meeting.
Okay, thank you, clerk. Do any board members have any comments, questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll go ahead. Really appreciate staff for the work on this. I think that it is a lot of progress and a victory since we've started with this new board. Well, the new restructure actually from 2020, from 2021, that 66% to 90%. So that's really good. That's a lot of progress. I do agree that we should still at the same time, if we're going to recover these costs, be more efficient and transparent. And I just wanted to ask staff real quick on that. What efforts have been taken for efficiency? Is that more kind of complaint based, or is there anything systems changes that we've done as a result? So just kind of from a high level standpoint.
Sure. One of the things specifically related to the emissions inventory costs that we talked about is that emissions inventory team put together in what's called an emissions inventory system to help formalize that process and make it a little more streamlined. Historically, there was no formalized submission process for that effort, which led to all sorts of things being seated on paper and things of that nature. And so that process in and of itself has resulted in some additional efficiency there. As Jack referenced, the team is always looking at ways to try to identify ways to streamline things. We're constantly looking at our permitting process to figure out where we can identify holes and make it a little bit more streamlined going forward. So that's one example of an area where we would be streamlined.
Great. Appreciate that, Member Duncan.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. So from what you were showing me, let's say this, obviously, if this passes, when will it be reviewed again? Is this always an annual review, or?
It's typically been an annual review. That was part of the recommendation from the state auditor, was that we look at it annually until we get to full cost recovery. As noted in the presentation, we're projecting to get to about 97% as part of this. And so we're getting pretty close. If we get to the point where we're at that maximum cost recovery, then we can consider that, determine whether or not we want to annual basis, or if there's a different process. But historically, it's been once a year.
Yeah, that's what I took from the presentation. I just wanted to check for the future would be likely again in a year. So my other question is, we use a consultant to prepare the recommendation. Is that correct?
They help us with the data, analyzing the data, helping us put that into the model and identify, what the costs are and what the projected full cost recovery is for each individual.
Right. So how much do we spend on a consultant related to this plan?
I'd have to look at the exact numbers, but it's relatively inexpensive, $50,000 to $100,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay, yeah, because that's really one of my concerns is we always use a consultant, and there's a fairly significant cost to it, and then the fees going up. Part of that's being eaten up by the fact that we're paying for a consultant every year. If we do it every year, I'm not sure if that's the ongoing continued plan, but Did you say it was 50 or 100,000?
It's somewhere in that range. I don't.
Yeah, because that's, for moving forwards, we're putting that burden on the manufacturers and the people seeking the permits, it's tough if it's going up more to pay for it. If we can do it without, if it's absolutely necessary, I get it, but is that fee included in the fully burdened cost recovery?
It's part of that overhead cost, the indirect cost.
All right, thank you.
No, just in response to that, certainly I agree with that about consultants. And since we've done this a couple of times and we're getting so close to that 100%, maybe it is an opportunity to look at where we can bring that kind of in-house, because we're not reinventing the wheel on this, we're already looking in-house. So maybe that's worth exploring. And then just when it comes to questions kind of on transparency and hours, I would just encourage staff when there are those questions from the businesses that we are specific with that, and that's good for us, too. Something that I deal with the city, national city. Sometimes staff tells us, "Oh, let's take 6 hours." Well, why does it take so long? And just unpacking that. So, but otherwise, I really appreciate you all for being so efficient. I've seen improvements. I've heard from industry that there has been more collaboration and communication on that. So overall, I think things are better, and there's always room for improvement. So. With that, I'll go ahead and make the motion to, there's nothing needed. Okay, it's just a report. Okay, I think that's it then. Seeing no other comments, we will move on to the next item. This is item D2. This is the one I think a lot of folks are here for. This is the Tijuana River Valley Sewage Emergency, the AIRE Improvement Relief Effort, Feasibility Assessment and Program Update. Clerk, could you please provide the instructions for public testimony?
Thank you, Chair Bush. Per the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
And then we're going to have our ABCO, Paulo Fargus, provide presentations. Paulo, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Bush and board members. In response to the board's directives from the August 14th and September 11th governing board meetings, we're here today to provide a feasibility assessment and program update for the AIRE Improvement Relief Effort, or AIRE program. I'm joined by Deputy Director Mike Watt, who will provide an update regarding our program implementation, as well as provide some context for the options that are described in our feasibility assessment. And then after that update, I'll discuss the options for program continuation today, which are recommended by staff for your consideration. Next slide, please. As we detailed in the feasibility assessment, which was provided in the board materials, the AIRE program is one component of an agency-wide effort to provide information and temporary relief to local communities suffering from the air quality impacts from the Tijuana River transboundary wastewater crisis. At its core, this is an infrastructure crisis which has gone on for decades, resulting in a water quality crisis and an air quality crisis. SDAPCD has responded by dedicating program resources from across the organization, including responding to over 3,300 complaints, establishing a hydrogen sulfide monitoring network, designing a web portal for public information with hourly hydrogen sulfide data, and providing air quality advisories and updates when hydrogen sulfide levels exceed state standards. Beyond that, we developed the AIRE program from scratch, identified and obtained funding for the original goal to provide 10,000 air purifiers to local community residents. And by redirecting existing staff resources, we have approved for distribution over 10,000 air purifiers in 1 year's time. We're proud of what we've accomplished, but we're also well aware that despite the fact that progress has been made, we are still years away from final solutions to this crisis. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes the board direction to reevaluate the AIRE program that was provided at the August and September board meetings. As I already noted, we are on track to exceed the original program distribution goal of 10,000 residential purifiers by the end of 2025. And we've begun providing purifiers to public schools and daycares in the area. We also completed the feasibility assessment to detail the likely costs to continue the AIRE program and suggested options for board consideration that are consistent with existing resources. With that, I will turn it over to Mike Watt to provide more details related to our program update and feasibility assessment.
All right. Next slide, please. In 2024, the APCD Governing Board approved allocation of $2.7 million in 8617 interest funds to launch the Air Improvement Relief Effort, or IDA program. Supplemental contributions came from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, County of San Diego District 3, the City of Solana Beach, and California Air Resources. To date, over 10,400 purifiers have been approved for distribution, with nearly 9,800 already delivered to households within the eligible area, including over 150 that were distributed this past Monday at an event sponsored by Supervisor AIRE. Approximately $200,000 remains from the initial 2.7 million 8617. Next slide, please. In August, the board approved exploring options for utilizing any remaining unspent AB 617 interest appropriations to purchase air purifiers for public schools and daycare facilities within the IDA program eligible area. So far, the program has provided purifiers to at least a dozen in-home daycares in the affected community. Staff is continuing to work with the remaining public schools and daycares within our IDA program eligible area to provide purifiers, though some have declined to participate. Additionally, over $900,000 in AB 617 project funds have been used to provide 199 purifiers for the South Bay Unified School District, including 10 daycares operating on their campuses, which combined with purifiers already purchased by the district will provide coverage for all South Bay Unified classrooms. We have also issued a contract to San Ysidro School District for 630 purifiers to be delivered to its campus. These projects resulted from applications submitted by the school districts in response to SDAPCD's annual Clean Air for All solicitation earlier this year. Next slide, please. SDAPCD has conducted significant public outreach in support of the IDA program, including through social media, mass media, direct mailers to eligible communities, door-to-door flyer distribution, and in-person registration events. Staff has also partnered with community-based organizations, schools, libraries, elected officials, government agencies, and other organizations to conduct direct community outreach about the program and encourage interested households to apply. In October, APCD conducted a survey to assess the effectiveness of air purifiers and get feedback from over 4,700 program participants who received purifiers prior to July 31st. Out of about 1,200 respondents, 88% indicated satisfaction with the purifiers, 79% reported odor reduction, and 86% indicated that the application and distribution process. Many households noted improvement in respiratory comfort, sleep, and general well-being. Next slide, please. Currently, the cost for one purifier unit and 2 replacement filters provided as part of the existing supplier contract for the IDA program is about $250, which includes taxes and shipping. Staff worked with the county's Department of Purchasing and Contracting to request quotes for smaller purifiers meeting program requirements. And based on vendor responses to that request, the estimated cost of smaller purifier units and the associated replacement filter, which would provide up to 2 years of use, range from $205 to $309. At this time, there's no contract in place for these smaller units, but the pricing information gives some indication of what cost smaller units may look like. Based on these unit costs, staff estimates the total cost for 40,000 purifiers with replacement filters could range from $8.2 million to $12.4 million. Program implementation costs for purifier distribution at this scale is estimated to be approximately $1.4 million for the staffing resources needed to support enhanced program outreach, application processing, and program administration. This includes approximately 5 to 6 full-time staff needed to reach an additional 10,000 households, which is an increase from the approximately 3 full-time equivalent SDAPCD staff resources currently redirected to support this program. Additional costs for website and database redevelopment, outreach materials, and in-person distribution events are estimated at $100,000 to $200,000. Staff estimates implementation of a program of this scale would require an additional total investment of $10 million to $14 million, depending on the purifiers procured, number provided per household, and the level of outreach required. Next slide. APCD staff has initiated informal funding requests in support of this potential expanded program. However, staff has not identified a dedicated funding source beyond the limited SDAPCD funds listed here. Given the severe budget cuts to multiple federal programs, entities at the federal, state, and local level are confronting numerous budget challenges. APCD has earned an additional $1 million in AB 617 interest funds that could be directed to the 2026 program. Staff estimates that it could provide purifiers for an additional 3,600 households using the current program model of 1 unit per household, up to 2,150 households, additional households at 2 units per household, or up to 1,075 additional households at 4 units. At this time, staff does not recommend the allocation of additional AB 617 project funding for the residential air purifier program. These funds are designed for emission reduction projects in AB 617 communities or disadvantaged communities which have been identified by the state. Staff estimates that expending $10 million on projects could result in expected emission reductions of 19 to 50 tons of air pollution. Additionally, due to budget challenges at the state level, APCD is facing a 75% cut to these AB 617 project funds in the coming year, leaving less funding available for emission reduction projects next year. Ensuring that AB 617 project funds remain available for potential projects throughout all of the priority communities countywide is the basis for staff's recommendation. Prior to the August board direction, APCD submitted a proposal for $6 million as part of the Supplemental Environmental Project SEP program to support the purifier program. And to date, we've received $134,000. The SEP project remains open and could potentially receive additional funding in the future. We also applied to the US EPA for an additional $900,000 in funding for classroom air purifiers, but this request was denied. Additionally, staff is in ongoing conversation with a member of the local state delegation to request state budget support for the program. Should the governing board decide to move forward with a large-scale program at this time, staff could make formal requests to a variety of entities at the federal, state, and local level, such as the EPA and IBWC, members of the local federal delegation, state agencies such as CARE, and local jurisdictions, including the County of San Diego, City of San Diego, City of Imperial Beach, and Port of San Diego. It's also important to note that staff resources beyond those described previously would be needed to seek funding for a large-scale program and for associated grant identification, application tracking, management, and grant compliance, especially as smaller grants from multiple sources. Next slide, please. As noted on the previous slide, staff is not recommending allocation of additional AB 617 project funding for the residential air purifier program, since those funds are typically allocated to emission reduction projects in eligible, low-income, and disadvantaged communities throughout the county. While it's difficult to precisely estimate what $10 million in AB 617 project funding could achieve in emission reductions due to the wide variety of eligible project types, this table provides some examples. $10 million expended on projects such as zero-emission trucks, school buses, and marine vessels would be expected to generate at least 19 tons of emission reductions, which is equivalent to taking about 6 million heavy-duty diesel truck miles off of it. If those funds were used for projects such as low NOx CNG or zero-emission off-road equipment, we would expect emission reductions in the neighborhood of 47 to 50 tons, or about 15 million heavy-duty trucks. Spending $10 million on conventional projects to convert older diesel engines to cleaner diesel engines could result in over 150 tons of reductions. However, given ongoing implementation of state regulations requiring the phase out of diesel equipment, eligible projects in these categories are increasingly difficult to identify. AB 617 projects can also be spent on electric charging infrastructure projects. Although those projects do not provide direct emission reductions, they are nonetheless critical for ongoing emission reduction efforts due to their role in electrifying transportation and supporting the transition from diesel and gas-powered vehicles to zero emission. And I'll turn it over to Paula for the rest of the briefing.
Thank you, Mike. Next slide, please. Based on the information developed as part of the feasibility assessment, staff has developed potential options for board consideration regarding IDA program implementation in 2026, since the initial program goals will be achieved this calendar year. Each of these options was developed based upon the limited resources which are currently available upon staff recommendation. Option 1 would essentially continue the existing program in the short term. Option 2 would use the same resources in an incident response model. Option 3 would focus on obtaining additional resources for the program while seeking to transition leadership of the program to an agency with broader resources than SDAPCD. Next slide. The first option continues the existing program on a limited basis, given the existing resources and subject to input from the 8617 community steering committees, as is required by the funding program. Based upon the cost estimates that Mike identified, staff determined that allocation of an additional $1 million in interest funding could provide purifiers to additional households within the eligible area, which could include 4 smaller purifiers per household to reach an additional 1,075. 2 per household to reach an additional 2,150. Or if we continue to provide 1 purifier per household, we could reach up to an additional 3,600 households. As noted in the feasibility assessment, the redirection of staff resources to the program has resulted in delays to other SDAPs work. As a result, this option would include evaluation of the issuance of an RFP for a contractor to support the program by providing outreach, customer service, and application processing, which would reduce the burden on current staffing resources. As part of this option, staff would also report back to the board to reassess the IDA program and funding in April 2026 in advance of SDAPCD budget hearings, which begin in. Next slide, please. This slide notes the cost for the purifiers as well as the number of households that could be served with the additional $1 million investment. As a reminder, SDAPCD survey results noted that 88% of the respondents reported being either satisfied or very satisfied with the purifiers provided to them. And many of these same households reported notable improvement in health and other respiratory impacts. In considering the recommended number of purifiers per household, staff considered this information as well as the analysis provided by the California Department of Public Health for how many purifiers would be required to reduce hydrogen sulfide levels below thresholds in different sized homes. As a result, staff recommends a maximum of 2 units per household in order to maximize coverage of the program to as many households as possible in local communities, while providing an additional level of odor support and contaminant coverage for as many households. Next slide, please. Staff also developed an option for consideration that is closer to an incident response model. This option would set aside funds for response in the event of a longer-term incident, such as multi-day construction or infrastructure failure. Despite improvements in infrastructure, it's clear that the crisis has not been resolved. We are still years away from a final infrastructure solution. As such, the current situation could change at any time with ongoing infrastructure maintenance and construction projects, as well as in unanticipated infrastructure failures. With this option, SDAPCD could potentially set aside the identified 8617 interest funds towards a program which could provide relief either through vouchers or reimbursements for purifiers or locally stockpiled purifiers. This option would allow existing SDAPCD personnel to resume their primary functions. Preliminary discussions with CARB indicate that use of 8617 interest funds in this way would need further discussion if this option were to be pursued. Next slide, please. In development of this option, staff looked at the recent lower levels of odor complaints, hydrogen sulfide levels, and transboundary flow in the river. As you can see from the graph on the left, the number of complaints daily peaked over 200 in September of 2024, but have since dropped considerably. And additionally, at a high level, the levels of hydrogen sulfide measured tend to track relatively well with the levels of complaints shown here. However, as I mentioned before, we are still seeing exceedances of the state odor expression as recently as last May. And with less frequency and severity than we've seen in past months, but we know that the problem is not solved and there is still intense need in local communities. Next slide, please. Finally, this graph shows the reduction in flows in the river, which corresponds with what we're seeing in improvements in complaint levels and reduced hydrogen sulfide levels. Notably, in October 2025, the IBWC completed a project to ensure that the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant could process 35 million gallons per day of wastewater flow, a 10 million gallon per day increase from prior levels. While completion of these projects is encouraging, it does not signal final resolution of the crisis. Ongoing construction projects, such as one that is projected to occur during the first 3 weeks of December, may cause IBWC to intermittently limit capacity of the plant to its prior 25 MTB. Next slide. Finally, staff developed an option for consideration which is more consistent with typical large-scale programs of this scale. Option 3 proposes to engage broader jurisdictions, such as the County of San Diego or a state or federal agency, to request additional funding and assumption of leadership. This would preserve our role as a supportive technical partner, while ensuring that primary programmatic leadership is transitioned to entities with broader jurisdictional authority and access to dedicated public health and emergency response resources. As noted in the feasibility assessment, generally larger scale purifier distribution programs in response to odor and air pollution emergency events have been led by counties or other better resourced, larger and multidisciplinary entities to implement these types of programs. While air purifier programs have been developed in several AIRE districts with the use of Community Air Protection Program funds, 8617 funds, those programs are typically much smaller in scale, with annual distribution of a few hundred purifiers in 8617 community. This scale is consistent with our initial air purifier program, Portside Air Improvement and Relief Program, which distributed approximately 600 purifiers to the Portside Environmental Justice. Plans for PAIR 2.0, which would have expanded the program to provide purifiers to the international border community and other state identified disadvantaged communities throughout San Diego County, have been delayed while the IDA program is underway. These considerations form the basis for this section. Next slide. Again, SDAPCD has made significant efforts to respond to the crisis, which are noted in this slide. This has been the largest, most comprehensive effort SDAPCD has mobilized in its history to respond to an air quality crisis, which is absolutely appropriate given the severity of impacts to affected communities. However, this level of investment is substantial for an agency of SDAPCD's size and scope, particularly when the IDA program does not directly support the emission reduction goals for communities most impacted by cancer-causing emissions, such as the Portside and international border communities identified under 8617. As a result, in addition to seeking external funding for the program, this option would also include requests to larger, better resource jurisdictions to take leadership of the program. Next slide, please. In conclusion, today's requested action is to receive the 2026 Air Improvement Relief Effort Feasibility Assessment and Program Update and provide direction to staff related to the identified options for program implementation in 2026. The feasibility assessment confirms that the IDA program has provided meaningful short-term relief for many households, schools, and daycare centers affected by the Tijuana River wastewater crisis. However, substantial resources would be required to continue the program at the scale specified for analysis and assessment. SDAPCD recognizes that this crisis will not be finally resolved until a permanent infrastructure solution to the transboundary wastewater issues has been completed. Until that occurs, we will continue to support the multi-agency effort to resolve the crisis. For SDAPCD, this will involve ongoing monitoring and community notification of hydrogen sulfide levels, enforcement of our requirements in response to community complaints, as well as continued support for the IDA program as our resources allow. However, pursuit of a program of the magnitude analyzed in this assessment will require substantial external investment to ensure that it does not divert SDAPCD resources from its core mission and the framework established under 8617. Next slide, please. This concludes our presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, staff. And I see Member Duncan has a question. So Member Duncan, I'll let you ask that if it could be just a brief technical question because I want to move on to the public comments and then have a July. There we have 26 speakers.
I understand. Can we go back one slide? My question, a brief question for you is, do you see option 1 and 3 as mutually exclusive, or do you see it where the board could do both because of the timing? Obviously, transition takes a certain amount of time.
The options were designed to allow for the board to mix and match, if you will. So I don't see them as mutually exclusive. I think both are pieces of both. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So we're moving on to the public comments, and I do have a request to the audience. So we do have board members who have to leave at 4:30, myself included. We have another item on the agenda, and we still want enough sufficient time to have a robust discussion from our board and ask questions of staff. So we have 26 speakers, so I'm going to limit the comments to a minute and a half, 90 seconds each. And I just ask for the audience respectfully, please speak to the specific to the item. Particularly what I ask is you speak to these options because that's what we want to hear about, or if you have other options or proposed actions beyond that. Please be concise and please just try to listen to the previous comments so we can, as much as possible, limit repetitiveness. So not trying to restrict you, just trying to be efficient here. So with that, Clerk.
Thank you, Chair Bush. I'd like to note for the record that Member Garcia has joined the meeting. As the chair has stated, we have 26 speakers on this item. We have 17 in person and 9 virtual. We're going to begin with those that are in the room. Our first speaker is Armando Sepulveda. You will have a minute and a half to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and you'll be able to use the timer that's on the screen to self-regulate your time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Armando Sepulveda II. I'm the Public Policy Manager for Outdoor Outreach and a lifelong South Bay resident. At Outdoor Outreach, our main aim is to increase access to the outdoors for youth and communities that often lack green spaces and opportunities. The Tijuana River Estuary is one of our county's most unique and important natural resources. It is also home to the cause of many of the issues that our community is facing. As you hear about the impact of the air quality in our community, it's important to keep in mind the hundreds of youth who live around the river and their families impacted by the worsening air quality. Youth cannot access the outdoors if they are chronically ill and dealing with respiratory disease. As we work to make the river safe and valued as a community asset, we also need to support proven solutions that address community concerns and improve quality of life. We encourage you to move forward with purchasing air filters and prioritizing community needs and health. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Franco Garcia.
Thank you, board members. Jose Franco Garcia, Executive Director with Environmental Health Coalition. Thanks for this opportunity to speak, and thanks to the district for putting together that presentation. We do want to speak as an organization that has had a lot of experience working with air purifiers, working with community to get these out where they need to be. We do support the idea of moving this forward, moving some version of this program forward, because we do believe the region does have an air crisis, not just in the Tijuana River Valley, but this is an emergency crisis that we have right now, similar to some of the ones that we've seen with fires and industry in different areas of the region. And we do support getting these air filters out for the community. So some version of option 1 and option 3 combined is where we would be. We definitely want to explore how do we make sure we get more funding in, because this is not enough funding to deal with the air problems in the region. So we do need to get more funding into the region to improve this. We appreciate the guidance of the leadership of the district and some of you in the room to be supporting this and moving this forward so we can make this happen and get clean air to our communities. And also the need to explore opportunities and ways that this can happen with direct contact and not just, delivering air purifiers, but also doing the research, finding out the effectiveness of them, talking to families, getting the services out, and make sure it's done in an effective way to help the air and health problems that are going on in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Courtney. I believe it's BALT. Batilski. Thank you. Batilski. You'll have. You can begin by stating your name.
Good afternoon, Chair Bush and honorable board members. My name is Courtney Baltiski with the YMCA of San Diego County. And some folks may say, why is the YMCA involved in this issue? A number of our staff, as well as community members, live in the impacted regions, and YMCA Camp Surf, which has been operating in the South Bay for over 50 years, has significant economic and programmatic consequences due to the continued beach closures. We also have staff who live on site down there. It's for that reason that I help convene what's called the Tijuana River Coalition, and we bring together over 65 local community-based organizations to talk about this issue on a regular basis. We work across about 5 different areas of impact, one of which is public health. So for over 2 years now, we've worked and learned hand in hand with Dr. Frieder, as well as Dr. Granados, Supervisor Aguirre, and many others to understand what's really happening across our communities. Most importantly, we've listened and heard stories from the community, including from Mr. Egger, who you heard from earlier today. We are in support of continuing the AIRE program. Option 1 and finding full resources to implement would be ideal. Option 3 and continuous quality improvement of the program would be beneficial to everybody involved. And as closing, I just want to applaud the significant effort that your team, Paula, has put forth to administer this program. It was no easy task, and we really appreciate the continued engagement.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Beatrice Clinic. You'll have a minute and a half to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Hello, I'm Beatrice Clinic. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at UC San Diego, working with Dr. Kimberly Prather. I'm here today to support urgent wider distribution of these air purifiers. I've been personally directing community members to the application forms, addressing concerns about energy consumption, noise, and helping them understand this huge health benefits of the air filtration. We can surely say that this daily exposure to the strong odors alone can put bodies on an alert, high-level stress mode that interferes with their health on a cellular level. Along with those pollutants in the air, it creates chronically fragilized bodies, making people more susceptible to all sorts of health problems. We cannot base our risk only on hydrogen sulfide. There are thousands of gases, there are particles, we know what particulate matter causes in their bodies. This community has their asthma, heart diseases, increased long-term risks for multiple chronic conditions. Just for one example, urban air pollution is linked to high levels of neurodegeneration, and so common urban air pollution makes people vulnerable everywhere else. In South Bay, when those city exposure levels are mixed with everything that's coming out of the river, we are endangering this community with acute, chronic, and future health effects that will take decades to fully appear, and it won't be easily traced to the Tijuana River watershed. We know that filtration is the only one of the few tools that provide immediate protection inside people's homes and lessen the burden of future medical and disability costs to this community too. It was a good start of 10,000 filters, but it's imperative to expand this program with more education and more filters so these residents can have a fair chance at protecting what's left of their health. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Omar Areza. You'll have a minute.
I'll give up my time to speaking, but.
No. Our next speaker is Dale Moraney.
No, it's okay. It's McEnany. So, hi, some of you look familiar. So I'm a resident in Chula Vista, constituent of Loma Aguirre. I do support a career. I'm from the start. I was still recording my little thing. I think out of the 3 options given, I think option 3 is obviously the best. If this is like a long-standing issue, as they mentioned in the report, and also I'm pretty sure most people after me are going to mention, so it makes sense to give this over to a broader jurisdiction. This is impacting like hundreds of thousands of people. It's impacting a lot of my friends. And there does need to be a higher air purifier distribution per household. A lot of households in the South Bay are like obviously more low income, that's like, we all know that. But they're also multi-generational. So you do have a lot of demographics that are more susceptible to these types of illnesses that do come from like the airborne pollutants. And the air purifiers, to my knowledge, don't really like purify the whole house. A little embarrassed, I'm not done reading my response. But yeah, support option 3.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christian Fuentes Hernandez. Please begin by stating your name for the record and self-regulate your time using the timer on the screen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christian Fuentes Hernandez. I live in San Isidro, and this is a very personal topic for me because first I live there and I kind of smell it every day. But I also had the opportunity when I was during the summer, I got a job where I was helping distribute these air purifiers. And I think for me, it allowed me to, yeah, we all know that Tijuana River Valley is bad. I mean, there's good things about, I just don't want to use the bad press, the point being, and I saw that the need for more air purifiers per household. Just to give you some context, this in San Isidro and a lot of the South District 8, we tend to have multi-generational housing. So that means that, for example, some people live with their grandma, some people live with their tío, you know, I live with my mom, you know. And so what I'm trying to say is sometimes the air purifier only cleans one room, right? So for example, I had the honor of interacting with a lot of older fellows that they have limited mobility, right? So for example, they stay most of the time reading or in the room, right? And for them, the air purifier was necessary, used for the room, right? And when they went outside to the living room, maybe they have dogs and other things, so they needed another air purifier, right? So just trying to be really quick, I think, as I mentioned, option 3 is very necessary because it's not only a one person issue. However, I still think option 1 is necessary, like at least a transition and increasing the capacity to at least four purifiers per household. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. I have a request to speak for Jasmine Vargas. I want to make sure that you want to speak or you do not check. No, you do. Okay.
Yeah. Jasmine Vargas, Air Quality and Clean Ports Campaign Director at Environmental Health Coalition. I'm speaking today to share EHC support for the AIRE program. In our experience, nonprofit public partnerships where local promotoras engage with the community on the ground have worked well. Our work to implement the AIRE program, for example, taught us the importance of providing low or no cost replacement filters, assistance of offsetting additional costs for related energy use, and identifying households with the greatest need to make lasting improvement in people's lives. For greater impact, programs like AIRE need more external funds and support from municipalities that have the staff, resources, and expertise to ensure the effective rollout of the program. We support a collaborative approach between APCD and other agencies and trusted community partners to ensure successful expansion. I also want to commend the APCD staff who have addressed the urgency of the crisis at the border and already distributed 10,000 air filters, and we're willing to extend the program into the new year with the limited resources currently available. These additional funds of another $1 million will be able to address the immediate relief of households without purifiers in the next several months, as described by option 1. The AIRE program remains essential to ensure that the frontline communities have good air. Unfortunately, reality is we're implementing both the port side and the border SERPs and the $40,000 air filters and reduce pollution levels and address future emergencies. So we really need that external resources and partnerships with the county health department, as you described in option 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Clayton Howard.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Clayton Howard. I live basically right on top of the epicenter of the sewage crisis. Before, with the old administration, very long, drawn-out process to get the air purifiers. Ended up buying my own before I got the one from the county. They are very small units. They only do small rooms, and for the manufacturer, you have to keep the doors and windows closed. So depending on your house, if you're in an apartment on a regular family-sized house, I'm encouraging the board to, pass with, you know, combination of 3 and 1 to broaden it with different organizations, but make sure that there's 4 per household for, you know, 1 for the, you know, the bedroom for kids to be in, you know, master bedroom for the parents, and then, you know, the family or living room, so that they'd be able to clean the air efficiently. And then choosing them, they need to be the correct ones, with that has potassium permanganate, which pulls out the hydrogen sulfide from the air. There's only limited companies that manufacture them, and that's the most important part that I'm stressing, is that it's the correct one to make sure it filters out all those nasty chemicals. Because for me, it has, with the 2 that I have in my room that I personally purchased, have helped me with my breathing issues. I just recently had surgery to fix a deviated septum, and now the smell is even worse than been before. So encouraging for you guys to pass unanimously to get 4 air purifiers per household, and making sure they're the correct ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Diane Takavorian.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Takavorian, and I'm here today as a member of the California Air Resources Board. And I wanted to first acknowledge the incredible work that Supervisor Aguirre has done to raise this issue, and much of the progress I think has been made because of your tireless efforts. I also want to acknowledge the work of the Air Pollution Control District. 10,000 filters distributed in 1 year is pretty phenomenal. I think it's maybe a record. But the item today acknowledges what we all know, and that is that much more needs to be done to protect public health. So as a CARB member, I was proud to support and vote to approve both the port side and the international border designations as AB 617 communities. So today I wanted to speak to the use of 617 funds for this project. As you may know, the primary source of pollution in both portside and in the border is diesel emissions from trucks, ships, and other equipment. Diesel is a carcinogen, and these emissions put these communities at very high risk, high cancer risk, over 900 cancers per million, one of the highest in the state. Each community has developed a community emission reduction plan, and that is voted on by the community steering committee, and they set the priorities. And the CERP calls for an 80% reduction in diesel emissions by 2031. So CARB supported the AIRE project by allowing the use of the 617 interest funds, and I believe there would be continued support for the use of these funds as described in number 1. Can I have just...
We have a little bit of time, so don't get ahead. Let you get through the motions.
That said, I want
Just please try to run.
Yes, sir. That said, I would like to caution that the cost of the proposed expansion is far beyond the capabilities of the current 617 program, and moving from these funds from the projects that reduce emissions, primarily diesel, would really break trust with the community and ultimately extend the exposure of residents to deadly diesel. I also want to note that the illegal federal actions that have been taken against CARB's authority to regulate diesel is also reducing our ability to reduce diesel across the state, and it's going to cost us more. So I just lastly want to pledge that as a CARB member, I'm happy to work with APCD and the county health department and others to try to do what's expressed in option 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Steve Egger.
Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to speak again. Steve Egger again, OTED Mesa Nestor Community Planning Group. Very far. Many residents they contact me often looking for filters. I give them the information and assist them all I can. Some of them want additional filters because one's not enough. Myself, I live 4 tenths of a mile from the Saturn Boulevard hotspot. So last couple of weeks, almost every night's pretty rank in my house. Entire home. I have 1 filter works very well in 1 room. We could use additional filters. I mean, up to 4 would be optimum. I mean, 3 would help. 2 is marginal. Also, thank you for providing filters for some of our schools are needed, but there's still schools don't have them. Some homes do not even have a filter. Just thank you, Paloma and Andres, for contacting me and everything you do. Everybody, I mean, thank you all. You're needed. Our children need your help. Our schools need more filters, so keep the filters rolling. We support your programs that are needed. So thank you very, very much. I'll let someone else speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jack Munger. You'll have a minute and a half to address the board.
Thank you, Chair Bush, members of the board. Jack Munger representing IEA. We also support moving forward with the staff's recommendation, and particularly alternative 3. And I would caution you against diverting any AB 617 funds for the purposes that are clearly a regional issue that this district has managed to respond to. And I think will go down as one of the major successes that the district has enjoyed in its lifetime, how it's responded to this border issue. The reason I would caution that is very simple. I have served on the community steering committee for AB 617 for the port side the last 5 years since inception. And I had watched the people out of National City, Barrio Logan Heights, really begin to believe that somebody cares, really begin to believe that the government has got some program and some funding to help them reduce emissions in their community. And to divert funds at this point in time would literally pull the rug out from under them and show them once more that they're really not the priority. There's always something else. So I'd caution you and be careful what message you may send in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christina Marie Green, and then following her will be Lucy Terry.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Marie Green. I am a resident from San Isidro. I'm also an alumni from UC San Diego and the executive director of the Poverty Project. We address student housing through economic, racial justice related work. I'm in favor of expanding the AIRE program for homes in and around the Tijuana River Valley. As a San Isidro resident, and one of the many people impacted by the air pollution who have been benefited from the initial purifiers, I just want to state that my own personal experience of being able to wake up without a dry or sore throat, eyes being dry, or massive headaches when I'm sleeping in my own individual room has been phenomenal in regards to the purifiers and their impacts. I also want to specify that the purifiers has been able to indicate outside pollution as well as inside pollution. So things like your oven being on or candles being lit and not being able to realize that that's polluting your home as well. And these purifiers has increased my overall health and well-being, as well as my family that lives with me. The multiple rooms that we have, although we only have one purifier and I work at home, I'm a remote worker. So being able to have that in my room has benefited me. But when we all go to bed, we all have our own individual rooms. So being able to amplify and expand the purifiers within the homes would be very beneficial. And yeah, that is my favor towards the expansion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the chair and staff for the opportunity to speak. My name is Lucy Terry. I'm here on behalf of the Sierra Club San Diego chapter, but also as a community member that has many friends and family that have lived in Vero Beach for decades. And I've watched them navigate every single day the confusion of health symptoms and constant uncertainty about the air that they're literally breathing. And they, just like every resident in South Bay, deserve relief and protection while this wastewater and air quality crisis continues. The reality is that the Tijuana River crisis does not exist in a vacuum. Changing climate conditions, higher temperatures, and longer dry periods already have and will continue to intensify transboundary impacts. And this is a public health crisis and environmental injustice that the IRA program has been the most meaningful, immediate intervention available to the public for. Thousands of air purifiers have helped families and residents, and ultimately one air purifier, as we've heard, is not enough. Most households need multiple units for adequate coverage. And we understand the funding challenges, but that is not a reason to scale back. Residents should not lose access to clean air just because crisis has outgrown capacity. We should be pursuing robust funding opportunities in order to expand and continue protecting our South Bay families. And I implore you to consider maintaining and expanding the IRE program in 2026 and to commit to pathways to 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lori Saldana, followed by David Blair.
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to suggest that the use of wristbands that were mentioned at the legislative hearing this morning as a way to measure some of the contaminants that are in people's households. and to use that to then monitor and look at the outcomes by exposure levels of different households. So you know if you were really addressing this at the level that's required. Likewise, I would suggest that the county target at-risk households and look at the in-home supportive service programs, people who are requiring assistance, older adults who have underlying health issues, work with the Adult Aging and Independent Services Committee, and also look at Meals on Wheels, because they are delivering meals every day, often to older adults who have limited mobility. And if they would deliver air filters and check in on them and maybe collect those wristbands and look at how much of an exposure risk they are having, that could really help with some of the research that's going on. And it could also help with the distribution and getting those filters to a population that is increasingly at risk, just as the youngest are. I know we're focused on daycares and schools, but older adults, especially those with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and other issues, just a little bit of these contaminants can really impact their quality of life. So those, I encourage you to continue with this and look for partnering with nonprofits that deal with older adults in the community and with the county agencies that do to get some of those air purifiers out to the older adults in Imperial Beach and other communities impacted by this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Blair. I'm the principal at St. Charles Catholic School in South San Diego near Imperial Beach. I come with gratitude today for all the work that's been done for all the residents in the affected area. I'd like to echo my support for many, along with many of the speakers today. And without reiterating anything, I'd like to offer a little bit of perspective from an educator standpoint. So this is my 21st year in education in the South Bay, and my family lives there. I have a 2-year-old. We have a filter in our house. Our school does not. And after multiple letters, there's, it's not been accessible to the students at our school. And so we're talking about safeguarding the health and security of our children, whether it's mental health, social health, academic, or physical health. We're talking about the physical health of our students. And so as an education system, we work really hard to safeguard our children. So when it comes to numbers, for me, it's whoever needs it, especially in our schools, because our faculty, our staff, our kids are there for 8, 10 plus hours a day, all year. And this problem is not going away anytime soon. So the Band-Aid is much needed when it comes to the air filters, as we await longer term solutions for the crisis. Again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Felicia House.
Oh. Good afternoon, board. And hello, everyone. My name is Felicia House. I'm from Imperial Beach, California. I live there. I've been there a long time. Love it. It's a great place, except last night. Y'all should have been there last night. No wonder I woke up with my throat itching, my nose burning, my eyes doing. Please, whatever you do, remember the residents in Imperial Beach, San Ysidro, Nesta, South Old Town Mesa, National City. We all in there trying to breathe, trying to stay healthy. So I'm in favor. I listened to all three, and I like 1 or 3, but really I like whichever one Cologne chooses. Because I know she knows what she's doing, and she lives. She's been there with us. So is Marcus Bush. So I want to thank you all for the work you've done thus far. Please, if you can, raise the limit that our house can have. And just one brief story. My girlfriend lived right on Seacoast Drive. She moved over to the college area. No more inhaler. No more itchy eyes, no more COPD at all. This is a real crisis for this community. So please remember us as we remember you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will now move to our virtual speakers. And I would like to remind our virtual speakers that the submission period for public testimony closed at the beginning of this item. So speaker slips submitted electronically will no longer be accepted. So we'll begin with our first speaker, Truth. You'll have 1.5 minutes to address the board. You can come off of mute and please begin by stating your name for the record.
Hey, it's Truth, 2.7 million and Band-Aids that Vanishing Vargas started. It was Nora 1.0's original fake solution and flawed program. So when I hear, I like whichever one Paloma's choosing, that's an accurate statement to describe every speaker she brought over to this meeting who do not represent Imperial Beach's true voice. These are Democrats and progressives organized in, and she couldn't get everybody she wanted. I know that to be a fact. No, there should not be $8 to $12 million taxpayer-funded air purifiers, 4 per house, because that's scientifically sound, but it's also unnecessary overkill. And we don't need other air quality issues in the county to be neglected. Most residents have no interest in these expensive air purifiers, and even some of the daycares didn't want these things. So obviously there is no longer a real call for air purifiers. And for those who actually do live or visit Imperial Beach and Nestor, you know that there has not been the toxic smells as bad as there were during last summer under the Biden regime's reign of terror. So it would be nice if Trump would stop posting on social media and start holding Mexico accountable. So I'm leaning towards options 2 and 3 to lightly invest in some kind of reserves. That's, you can keep asking for money from the state and feds. It doesn't hurt in the county because they all have money. But I think you just need reserves, but you don't need any more air purifiers. You just need to close the program. There's not really a call for it. So I hope the sane ones are understanding what I'm saying and understanding the real opinion of the people and not this organized effort that's artificial. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Montserrat Hernandez. You'll have 1.5 minutes to address the board. Please come up on mute and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
Buenas tardes, ¿se escucha?
Sí.
Solicité traducción.
Buenas tardes, habla Hilda Acero, yo soy su traductora.
Muy bien. Muy bien, voy a ir por párrafos.
Ok, sí, por favor.
Or shouldn't go up the main mic at the podium.
Ok, ¿sí puede hablar?
Claro. Buenas tardes, soy Montserrat Hernández, soy miembro del comité AB617, organizadora comunitaria con EHC y residente de Logan Heights.
Good evening, I'm Montserrat Hernandez. I am a member of the ABC, AB617, and I live in Logan Heights.
El día de hoy estoy apoyando al programa de AIRE.
Today I am supporting the IDIT program.
Como miembro del Steering Committee, hemos trabajado estos últimos 5 años para lograr metas de reducción de la contaminación en comunidades portuarias.
As a member of the committee, we worked the last 5 years perdón, ¿puede repetir lo que dijo?
Que como parte de este comité estamos trabajando los últimos 5 años para lograr metas de reducción de la contaminación en comunidades portuarias.
We have been working in the last 5 years to reduce the contamination in the areas affected.
Se han abordado diferentes estrategias con el SERP.
They have done a lot of strategies with SERP.
Así como también el programa AIRE, donde se entregaron purificadores de aire.
Just like the AIRE program where they distributed air purifiers.
Por eso es que apoyamos el programa AIRE para que más familias tengan mejor calidad de aire dentro de sus hogares.
That's why we support the program so that more families can have purified air in their homes.
Pero se necesita obtener más fondos del condado y del estado para que no solo las comunidades alrededor del río Tijuana sean beneficiadas.
But we need more funds from the state so that not just the families around the Tijuana River can be benefited.
Sino que todas las comunidades portuarias como National City, Barrio Logan, se beneficien también.
so that the other communities around, like National City and Barrio Logan, can benefit from it too.
También les pedimos que haya más coordinación entre nuestras comunidades para poder entender las necesidades de cada una y cómo apoyarnos en nuestra lucha por aire limpio.
I'd also like to have more cooperation in our community so that we can learn how to benefit from the pure air.
Por eso pedimos que los fondos que tiene el programa AIRE se amplíen y así poder beneficiar a más familias. Gracias.
That's what we're asking, that the funds from the program AIRE be expanded so that more families can be benefited. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, our next caller is Alicia Sanchez. You can come off mute and please begin by stating your name for the record.
Ella también para intérprete.
Buenas tardes, ¿puede decir su nombre para el acta, por favor? Alicia.
¿Nos escucha?
No, sí, ¿nos escucha Alicia?
Ok,
Ok,
voy a empezar.
Su intérprete.
Voy a empezar, ¿ok? Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alicia Sánchez, soy residente de National City, promotora de EHC y miembro del comité ABC 17.
Alicia Sabes, and I'm a resident of National City and a member of the program AB.
616.
Yes, sorry.
Como parte del comité, estoy de acuerdo con la expansión del programa del aire.
As part of the committee, I am in agreement with the expansion of the program, the AIRE.
Porque se darían más purificadores de aires a las comunidades afectadas por la contaminación.
Because that way the more families, affected families would be able to get more air purifiers.
En National City sabemos lo que es estar afectado con la mala calidad del aire.
In National City, we know what it is to be affected by the bad quality of the air.
Cuando pasó lo del incendio del barco naval, nos afectó mucho por todo lo contaminado que tuvimos que salir de nuestras casas.
When the fire of the naval ship occurred, it affected us very much, and so we all had to leave our homes.
Por eso necesitamos este programa para que tome en cuenta a todas las comunidades afectadas.
That's why we need this program so that you can take into account all the affected communities.
Aquí en National City ya se dieron purificadores de aire.
Here in National City, we already received our air purifiers.
Pero no fueron suficientes para toda la comunidad que sufre por mala calidad de aire.
Community, and we still have the bad quality of air.
Yo en lo personal tengo el purificador.
I personally have the purifier.
Y nos ha ayudado bastante.
And it has helped us tremendously.
Porque podemos respirar aire limpio.
Because we can breathe pure air.
Cuando estamos en nuestra casa.
When we're at home.
Por eso les pido que extiendan este programa.
That's why I ask for you to extend this program.
Para que más familias de las comunidades portuarias.
So that more families in the community can benefit.
Como Barrio Logan y National City.
Like Barrio Logan and National City.
Se benefician de este programa del aire.
Can benefit from this air purifying program.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maria Hernandez. We don't see her on the list, but I do want to give her an opportunity in case she's there. We don't see her. No Maria Hernandez. Next would be Kendall Holsenbach. We don't see you listed as well. Next is Elsa Swan. Our next speaker is Lisa Cuestas. You'll have 1.5 minutes to address the board. Lisa, you can come off of mute. We'll come back to you. Our next speaker is Bethany Case.
Hi there, good afternoon. I wanted to, my name is Bethany Case. I'm a resident of Imperial Beach, and I'm calling today as the Community Schools Coordinator for Southwest Middle School. I want to thank the AIRE program staff. They've been incredible. I know that their event in Imperial Beach was overrun, so to speak. Not enough systems for the amount of people who wanted them. I wanted to encourage you to consider option 1 and option 3 as a second choice. We know that there's a great need here at Southwest Middle School. Most of our families are in the River Valley, and they have a very great need and not the means to supply themselves with these air purifiers. And as a resident of Imperial Beach and someone whose eyes were burning last night, I know that that more are needed. And so we really would love for you to continue this program and expand it if it's possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to try Lisa Cuestas one more time. Okay, we'll move on to Sarah Davidson. You can begin by stating your name for the record.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair Bush and board members. My name is Sarah Davidson, and I manage the Clean Border Water Now program at the Surfrider Foundation. I also help to lead the Tijuana River Coalition, and I speak today on behalf of both the coalition and the more than 4,000 Surfrider members across San Diego County, including impacted areas of South County. Thank you, Supervisor Aguirre and Dr. Granados, along with all other board members, for your persistent leadership on addressing air pollution resulting from the Tijuana River pollution. We strongly support continuing and expanding the AIRE program. Although this is a stopgap measure and does not address the pollution itself, we see this program as essential to ensuring the well-being of residents, K-12 students, workers, and frontline communities until long-term solutions to the problem are implemented and functioning. You may already know that the Tijuana River was designated rather, as one of the most endangered rivers in the nation for the second time in 2 years. The river made the list again, not only because of the grave threats to public health, but also because of the opportunity it offers all of us to come together, step up, and do better in protecting our shared river, coastline, air, and all who depend on it. We urge the district to not only continue to enhance this vital program moving forward, but also to ensure long-term funding and expand the scope of the program to help protect all impacted communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Kim Prather. You can begin by stating your name for the record.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Kim Prather. I'm the professor at UC San Diego who has done many measurements in the South Bay over the last year. And we, sorry, move my hand. And I just did testimony this morning on the latest levels, the chronic levels of H2S. But, you know, basically we are well beyond the levels that should be there for any safe health. And I will say also, a report we will have coming out soon is, you know, there are hundreds, thousands of other gases coming out of this river and the ocean from this pollution. And I feel very strongly as an expert, as an atmospheric chemist, that no one should be breathing this air. And so, okay, it's there. It's going to take a little bit to clean it up, But what's the best solution? Air purifiers. And so to cut that back now, I believe is very short-sighted. And I believe like one per house when you need at least special, in separate rooms is so important, and they work and they picked out the right ones, which is great. But I feel like it's not enough. And I honestly am sitting here feeling shocked and a bit sad that one community breathing bad, diesel is, sorry, I'll finish this up. We should not be pitting one community against another. Everyone is entitled to clean air. And the air that people are breathing in the South Bay is the worst air that I've measured in my 33 years anywhere in the world. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Serena Pelka.
Hi, good evening. This is Serena Pelka from Climate Action Campaign, where we're fighting for an affordable, pollution-free future for communities across the region. I'm calling in today to express our strong support for this item and for expanding the program. I don't think I need to share too much more based on all of the feedback you've heard directly from community members, from public health experts, from so many folks who this is affecting their day-to-day lives, and we need solutions to go to the community urgently and in a thorough, expanded way. So please support this item and expand the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker, we'll try one more time, Lisa Cuesta.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. You can begin by
Oh,
saying.
great. Hello, I'm Lisa Cuesta, CEO of Casa Familiar, calling in support of the AIRE program, as we have done similar work with the PAIR program to address air pollution, specifically pollutants like particulate matter. San Isidro and Portside communities have advocated for years, and much of why we received AB 617 designation and funding to our communities. CASA would like to understand what long-term health impacts if a major shift in dollars were to occur, and if this will raise questioning on the use of these funds intended to reduce emissions. My last point will be that we support efforts to make our communities healthier, and with many programs like AIRE, we see the role of promotoras being very important and effective in scaling this effort, given the trust they have developed in many communities. The current distrust of agencies and government taught by Latino and immigrant communities that need support them makes it even more important to partner with CBOs and promotoras. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
All right, thank you, Marvis, and thank you to all the members of the public for being concise. I know it was a rush, so I appreciate your patience. With that, we'll go ahead to board member comments and questions, and we'll go ahead and start with member Aguirre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank all the speakers for coming out and expressing your points of views. I also want to thank Paula and the team for all of your efforts in not just rolling out the program thus far, but in looking at all the options that we would have available to move the program forward. So thank you for that. Just want to add, and some of the speakers already alluded to this, but I want to add to the presentation that not just the Portside communities are an AB 617 community, but so is San Isidro. We're talking about in the presentation hydrogen sulfide, but we need to be mindful that that is not the only pollutant that we're all breathing, because just like Portside communities, the communities in the South Bay impacted by Tijuana river pollution are also breathing in cancer-causing chemicals that may be even worse than diesel emissions. So I just wanted to caveat that. And I know that while we celebrate our accomplishments so far, it is equally important that our work, to be clear that our work isn't finished. To effectively safeguard public health, far more air purifiers must be delivered to meet the scale of need in the communities impacted, not just by the Tijuana river pollution, but by port emissions as well. As someone who represents all of these communities, it's not about one over the other. It's one and the other, because for decades we've been disinvested and disenfranchised. And yes, it's going to be it's going to take a lot of effort for us to make up all of that disinvestment and disenfranchisement, but I think we can do it together. So I also want to say that creating or transitioning to a new delivery system, I think would impose unnecessary startup and administrative costs, strain already limited resources, and cause unacceptable delays in providing protections that South Bay residents urgently need and deserve. Our priority must remain the rapid expansion and sustained implementation of a program that is already functioning, is known and trusted by the community, as we've heard today, and is capable of delivering timely health protections. Now, on the feasibility assessment, I appreciate the opportunities to provide input and direction on the findings. Regarding the number of purifiers per household, it is great that we now have input from the California Department of Public Health, which we did not. CDPHs shared that we would need 1 to 3 purifiers per household to actually lower H2S concentrations below 30 parts per billion. So according to the California Department of Public Health, we need 1 to 3 purifiers per household to lower H2S concentrations below 30 parts per billion, and 2 to 5 purifiers per household to lower H2S concentrations below 5 parts per billion. As you heard from Dr. Prather this morning, I also testified before the Senate Environmental Quality Committee convened by Senator Catherine Blakespear, and Dr. Prather shared some of her recent findings as they relate to chronic long-term exposure to hydrogen sulfide. She shared with us a data point that I thought was quite alarming. There's so much unknown when it comes to our long-term exposure to this one pollutant. As I mentioned, there's many others. She did a 15-month series of H2S, and she found that on average, on a 24-hour average, all of us are being exposed on a daily basis for the last 15 months to 13 parts per billion. And I just mentioned the recommendations from CDPH are 5, right? So we're well above where we should be. So in light of this input, I would be comfortable lowering the standard for an ongoing AIRE program to 3 purifiers per household from the original 4 that I was hoping we could pursue. Obviously, financial constraints are incredibly, top of mind for all of us. I think that switching to a smaller bedroom purifier on the condition that APCD, that we're able to procure them closer to the $200 per unit mark would save us 20%. So I would like to see us explore that. These changes, reducing the units per household and switching to a smaller purifier model will save millions of dollars, significantly enhancing the financial viability of this program, while we continue to ensure the safety of South Bay families and we continue to pursue sources of funding. So just to summarize, some basic math, 205 per unit times 30,000 units we would be looking at 6 million rather than higher estimate that was presented to us. That's almost over. We can conservatively estimate that this number will substantially benefit our families while we continue to pursue other sources of funding. I want to thank APCD again for your work to identify the additional $1 million in funds that can serve as a bridge for the extension of this program. We've already obviously had significant momentum, as was mentioned during the presentation. We've almost secured the 10,000 already. Have to keep the momentum going. So I'd like to propose the following motion. Allocate $1 million in AB 617 interest earnings to provide purifiers to additional households using existing staff resources and distribution model in the short term. 2, direct San Diego Air Pollution Control District Director to engage the County of San Diego, state agencies, and federal partners to request funding for an ongoing AIRE program with the following parameters. 30,000 units, 29,500 would be set to be distributed through the direct shipping model, and 500 to be distributed through in-person events, and switching to the smaller bedroom size one that would be much less costly. But I would also like us to see pursue funding requests that include but are not limited to federal appropriations and grant funding, the community project funding, and congressional directed spending requests in coordination with the San Diego Federal Legislative Delegation, with whom we've already been talking to, State of California appropriations, federal EPA, Cal EPA, CARB, we already heard from them today, existing or future AB 617 community air protection incentive, local government funding sources, including but not limited to County of San Diego reserve funds. I will make sure that we make sure that conversation, we've been saying that at the dais since I came into my office, and we're going to continue to push for county support as well. So just to reiterate, that would be my motion. I do believe that the in-person distribution event has proven to be successful. We've heard from community that there's not just the element of practicality, but there's the element of trust from community. We need to continue exploring that model along with the direct shipping model. Also, the County of San Diego's Office of Economic Development and Government Affairs, commonly referred as EDGA, has also communicated eagerness to support APCD and submissions for any community project funding and congressionally directed spending. So we can count on their support for these requests. And lastly, I just look forward to hearing everybody's comments and opinions on this. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Member Aguirre. We have a motion on the floor. Can I hear a second, and then we'll move on to more discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second, a motion from Member Aguirre, a second from Member Campbell, Member Duncan.
Thank you. I have a few comments, but I also have a question for the motion maker, if I may. I took from your proposed motion that it's basically option 1 and 3 with some detail specifics you would like within those options. And the reason I'm asking is I want to make sure, while I agree with you that we should seek all those funding options. So no question there. And with 1, I agree with you as well. So the interest funds talking about, but your motion doesn't include the mandatory pulling of any funds from the project funds that was in option 2, right? It's to seek funding from other sources, see if we can expand the program and have a report come back.
Yeah, so just the 1 million.
Yes.
For now, and then come back probably in April, have our budget discussion, hopefully with funding being brought to the table from multiple sources, including King County, so that we can have that discussion. So the second part of my motion is we're not approving that right now.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate the clarification. I just want to make sure I understood it properly, and I agree with your motion. So I'd be voting for it. If we were proposing to option 2 now, I would not be supportive of that, but I won't go into why at this time. So, and hopefully we have congressional support for it. I mean, it is to a large extent a federal issue. My main goal whenever I work on this project on the Tijuana sewage issue is to stop the problem, not necessarily just to focus on the symptoms, but the symptoms are obviously huge and real and a crisis for people who are suffering under it. So anyways, all of them, my comments, since I'm in agreement and look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Duncan. Any other members? Member Fernandez, Sigler Fernandez.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate all these comments. And as Member Aguirre was saying, we did have the opportunity to present today at the Senate hearing, and I've spent the last year and a half deeply enmeshed in this situation, taking samples, monitoring, being in the community, talking to community members. I'm great to hear that the filters are working. That makes my heart happy. I know it's a Band-Aid. I understand that. But having, talked to people about how this is making a difference, we do need more. I think we're all kind of in agreement. We've heard that. It's not enough. Bedrooms, nighttime, multi-generational families. We've talked about that. I have to say too, Ken Prager and I working closely together. She's not wrong to say we have some of the worst air quality in the country, if not other places across the world right here as a result of this issue. I don't think any of us are in disagreement with that. But the health problems are expensive. And I keep hearing not only from the constituents in the community, but also our own health department, physicians, they're all speaking about the health problems that are happening in this community because they're chronic. We're losing out work, we're losing out from school, we're gonna have generational impacts from this, the health costs are enormous. And as a scientist being in the field, we were talking about wristbands earlier. We're hanging up wristbands around the river, we're hanging them up in Imperial Beach at the pier, we're hanging them across the community. And I'm seeing these interesting similar chemical footprints or fingerprints, as we're calling them, on each of these wristbands that we're finding. We're finding them at Saturn Boulevard, the hot spot, at the homes nearby, so are the exact same chemical fingerprints. And when I say chemicals, talking over 500 different types of chemicals. Again, cancer-causing chemicals, irritants, different types of chemicals, banned pesticides that we're picking up. These are things that are being spewed out from this river into the community. And as a scientist, I can say I'm shocked sometimes when I look at it and I see this and I'm thinking, wow, this is so insane that I can't believe that we're not doing even more quicker, but I also understand the complexity of the issue. So these same fingerprints that I'm talking about on these wristbands, we're also finding at homes at the Imperial Beach, all the way up to Coronado. So these are the chemicals that get picked up across, and I'm not talking about pathogens, because I'll talk about that in a second. But the chemicals are dangerous, you can't smell a lot of them. And even if you look at the research to hydrogen sulfide at wastewater treatment plants or concentrated animal feeding operations, you'll see that it's not just the stinky chemicals, it's also the ones that you can't smell. They're quite dangerous and they come along with that. And so I just want to remind people, when I said that earlier today, smell is always the best indicator. So yes, odor is a problem, but I'd like to call this more than just an odor nuisance. If you have an odor, you're having exposure. And so I've still been a firm believer that 30 parts per million is not low enough for hydrogen sulfide. I've experienced my own illnesses being at those levels. Apparently I'm a super smeller and I can smell it at low doses, and a lot of people like that are like that. You can smell as low as like 0.001 in some places. Some people can have that. So just I'll kind of wrap it up with the pathogens themselves are quite dangerous as well. I was mentioning to some of my colleagues how I've been personally affected by this. My own health has been impacted this entire year. I spent 3 months almost daily at the hot spot, taking samples, full PPE. Sometimes it was too hot to keep the masks on. Visibly sick, and I suffered this entire year. And I'm not going to go into details from being exposed to this. And it's really taken a toll on our family. It's taken a toll on my students, on our university that has to pick up the slack for me sometimes when I can't show up because I'm sick. And I'm not complaining about myself because I don't live there. I just happen to be a scientist that was there studying for 3 months in an intense, hot zone. But the people who live there on a daily basis, compared to others, eyes for nausea, headache. This has been going on for a while now. So I'm just going to reiterate by saying I really appreciate the air purifier program as an implementation tool that we can take from our tool belt, put into place to help support families that are that are suffering currently. Obviously we have to do more, but as an air district, I really do think that this program has made a difference. It's building trust in the community, and I am appreciating the fact that we're talking about keeping it moving forward and expanding it. We should do more, but thank you all for your efforts. And that's my scientific point of view, my personal point of view, and I appreciate the opportunity to just share this.
Thank you, Member Dr. Stigler. Any other members? Member Gloria?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to members of the public who spoke today. Appreciate you being here to help put a face and personal experience behind what is being experienced for far too long in our South San Diego communities. I want to always take the opportunity to extend my appreciation to all of the team for moving with extreme swiftness to address this issue. As listening to some of the public testimony, I mentioned the concentration that people have in this issue. I would point out that this agency has engaged over the last year in an aggressive, I think, very meaningful way, appropriating $2.7 million. I would argue that our partners at the federal level at both the U.S. and Mexican side have primary responsibility for addressing this issue. But we have not allowed that to be an excuse for us to not engage, quite the opposite. Especially in the staff report, this staff is largely stepped away from some other responsibilities in order to deploy 10,000 units in our southern San Diego communities. But I think that's an indication of how serious this agency. And I'd like to wonder if every agency for which there is responsibility for associated aviation the way that APC has it, I think this should be resolved. But let us be a role model to the federal EPA, SN partners, and others when it comes to addressing this issue with the seriousness that it deserves, and hopefully with dollars that get to the root cause. Everyone acknowledges this is about addressing symptoms, but when knowing, as we all do, the solutions around this will be measured in years, that is not an acceptable answer to the residents of South San Diego. To be told that they have to live with this over the next number of years while we assemble multiple trade agreements and treaties and other things like that, and try and piece together the dollars to deal with this comprehensively. That said, we do have some responsibilities today with the work that we're doing. I appreciate the supervisors, not only her motion, but the indication that we could use some of those substantial reserves of the County of San Diego to address this urgent public health issue. And that is a significant change from past practice and a real representation of the leadership that Supervisor Gary has brought to this building that has been absent in the past. I would simply say that between Mayor Duncan, former Mayor Gary, and myself, not only is every time we interface with the federal government, we don't raise this particular issue. We'll continue to do that. Under Supervisor Gary's leadership, we've been able to work city and county forces on one of the hot spots in Saturn Boulevard. The study is being performed, will be completed soon. We'll have a menu of options for trying to address that cooling and foam and general nastiness that is down there. None of that's cheap, seemingly. Is all those that are 8-figure numbers, I'm thinking. Thereabouts, maybe 7. Nevertheless, it gives you an indication of just how significant the costs are and why we have to be very strategic on where we place these sources. So I guess with those comments, I would just ask a question with regard to the $1 million AB 617 interest earnings. There was testimony from members of our community steering committee. Does this type of allocation go through that in considering the other requests of those dollars, or is this a direct allocation?
It is the 617 program does require us to get feedback from the community. So that is something we would have to do. My suspicion would be they would support another at that dollar amount. I think they may have some concern talk about it, but we will need to circle back with those both of those groups feedback on it.
That is encouraging to me. I heard the testimony of those who are on that committee. I think all of us who have engaged in this issue for any length of time know that there's tremendous lack of trust by community members, and to the extent that Mr. Honda, I think maybe was sort of respectfully mentioned that building and trust and how the steering committee has been helpful in that regard. I would like to say I would tend to agree with you, Michael, about that process, but involving and engaging them in furtherance of trying to maintain what we've been able to build is important. Other question, there's contemplation somewhere in here about philanthropy. I often feel like that's maybe not going to be as transformational as people sometimes think it would be, but how does APCD currently engage philanthropy? And obviously there was some allocations from other government or public sector agencies. Do you have grant writers on staff? Is that engineers moonlighting as grant writers? Like how is that being accomplished?
We do not have grant writers on staff. We have not previously reached out to philanthropy for any funding. Our funding comes from state, federal grants, dollars that are paid for through vehicle registration fees. And then obviously permit fees for the stationary storage programs. But we do not have a grant writer on staff. We don't have dedicated staff for that. We've had you might recall our environmental justice government to government grant that was through EPA. One of our program coordinators, Shalem, in our office at AJ wrote that grant. But as you know, grant writing and investigation takes a lot of time. And so that was one reason we voted in the feasibility assessment that staffing costs associated with that were not included in those estimates. So we don't have dedicated staff for grant funding, grant writing. We do have staff that's dedicated to tracking the grants we have during that.
It's because the solutions around this are generally measured in the billions, right? There's a long-term goal. It's unreasonable for an individual philanthropist, some exceptions, to actually be able to do that. But for a solution that's $200-something, I mean, that feels a little more doable for philanthropic efforts. But I'm mindful of staff capacity. We're just talking about cost recovery and the fact that we're not there. So I mean, to say that we have a deficit with our existing duties, let alone this additional initiative that's been brought on. And I just wonder if there's some creativity we could bring to bear when it comes to grant writing for, and I know it's on option 2, which is vision complex now, but some sort of invitation, someone we could potentially partner with to ask private sector support and assistance for this more accessible version of relief for South San Diego residents. While we wait for meaningful or more additional significant action by federal partners, but as expected. But Supervisor Geary, I appreciate the nature of the motion. I'll be to support it. Look forward to continuing to work with the cities of Coronado, Imperial Beach, First County on a local level, and hope that federal and state funding becomes more available, not just for the air purifiers, but more specifically for the long-term, big-scale solutions that are absolutely necessary. I would hope that this organization does not have to make additional allocations for air purifiers because our federal and state partners will engage in a way that solves the problem for good people of San Ysidro, Imperial Beach, can go on their lives with joy communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gloria. Vice Chair Dr. Burkett Garcia, and then I think Member Edgar had her hand raised, and then I'll go ahead and speak after that. Did you? Member Cobalt. So Vice Chair, then Member Cobalt, and then I'll speak after that.
My comment's going to be a little shorter because my question was if we had a grant writer on staff to help us find data. So piggybacking off Mayor Member Gloria's comment, maybe the staff could look into partnering with one of the community organizations or something, so that we can look for some grant funding. And then in addition to that, I want to let Member Aguirre that I am supportive of her proposal, but I also want to stipulate that this is just helping as a Band-Aid. It's just helping inside the houses. It's not helping outside. It's not helping with the pathogens. We're seeing more and more multi-drug resistant infections in the hospital. I have not seen this many multi-drug resistant infections in my 20 years of practice. I'm having 4-week-olds, 6-week-olds, 2-month-olds who've never been on antibiotics have multi-drug resistant infections that are hospitalized for 2 to 3 weeks at a time so that they can get IV antibiotics. So this is a real crisis. And so we're here to discuss the air quality, but I think it's important that we also keep in mind that it is making our entire community very sick.
Thank you, Vice Chair Member Cobalt.
Thank you. I also have to leave at 4:37.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, so we all know the root cause of the problem, and it's been going on for quite a long time. And I appreciate hearing all the public comment about what's going on in your communities. I actually found a little bit of value in all of the options. Option 1, of course, the $1 million that's right now, and option 3, we definitely, it's not just indoor, it's outdoors, it's all around, and exactly what you spoke about. That's the larger problem that we need to solve, and this agency can't solve it alone. And they do need the leadership of the bigger agencies to help drive this bus. Giving out air purifiers, I was thinking it's like handing out umbrellas in a hurricane, and it's not really fixing the problem, and I'm all about fixing the problem. So, oh, thank you.
I don't like the analogy was big hit.
But, I think then you all get it, right? So, that's how I think of things. And option two, the part that I do like about that is we do need to find a way to ultimately relieve the staff's time and the constraints on our budget related to how much time they're putting with that. So I would like us to look at that at maybe the February meeting. You're not in favor of consulting or contracting it out, but maybe there is some kind of hybrid solution that you just said that's not a contractor, but partners that could help do this, because our agency needs to get back to the bigger picture of what we're here to do. And my fear is that we're doing such a great job, these other agencies that are ultimately responsible will go, well, they're fixing it for now, and then it just going and going and going. And we just want the problem to be solved. There's my comment.
Thank you, Member Koval. And I really, again, appreciate staff, the members of the public, Member AIRE. We worked on this when you were mayor last year, when those spikes, when they went crazy. And I got to give a shout out to our former chair, Jack Shu, for really taking the lead on this, along with our staff. And not to reiterate everything everyone said, but I'm so proud of all of our staff for taking the lead on this. Every single individual, from you, Paula, all the way down to, well, not down, but just collectively, all the employees who stopped what they're doing and made this effort, because we created a program out of thin air, basically. And there aren't other agencies, air pollution control district that did this type of work at this level of effort this quickly. And of course, there were some hiccups. There was some chaos, some things didn't get distributed, communication. That happens in response to a crisis. Just want to iterate how proud I am. I think I can speak for the entire board unanimously how proud we are of your staff work on this. So I do support continuing the program in-house. The issue that I have, and I'm generally supportive of the motion, I have questions for staff about the $1 million allotment. So I have some questions there, but I think that it's a question of always of resources and funding. And so if staff can go back on the slides, if you all can go back on just looking at the allocation. So there was that slide about how much APCD has spent, the 2.7 million, and then how much some of the other agencies have contributed. So my concern was it,
slide 4 is the one that has.
Yeah, I think slide 4. So my question, so my concern is similar to Member Koval, and I addressed this with Member AIRE as well before the meeting, that I just need a very clear understanding of when our staff time, right? How much we responded to this, and what is the cost and the delays to other projects. And I did hear commentary from Diane, from Jack, and some others with concerns about this taking away from other issues. And I don't think, for me personally, I don't think that's pitting communities against each other. I don't think that's playing what I call pollution oppression Olympics. But I do think that it's important because we have a limited source of funding. And so when I spoke to staff, one thing I did find out is that, or at least from them, but please feel free to reiterate and spin on this, is that in the last year, I could say for National City, and as you all know, we have a lot of issues with air pollution and health in National City, that our PAIRE program, so our distribution of filters for that really targeted diesel particulate matter and that type of pollution, the carcinogens. Not only that, but the air monitors. We're supposed to have 2 air monitors that I think are online, hopefully at the end of this month. But those did get delayed as a result of an unexpected shift of staff time from the building of this program and some of the hiccups to that. So my concern is that I don't, like, in this $1 million, I don't want to see continued delays on that, or I want to at least limit the delays on that, and I'm open to the creativity. So my question for staff specifically is, how did the implementation or creation of this AIDA program impact other programs such as the Paranational City Air Monitors, And then what was the original date that those monitors, for example, were supposed to go online? Because they were late, and that data would have been very helpful for one of our very controversial projects, USDG Fuels. And had those air monitors been online, then we could have had some better data, baseline data on what the emissions was to better inform our decision, which got rejected anyway, but still more data would have been more helpful.
Sure. Thank you for that question. I want to address the part about the air monitors specifically. We don't have a set date by which the monitors were going to be in place. Part of it is, just following the process of permitting with the different jurisdictions, or establishing the agreements with the property owners, or getting the right infrastructure, like getting the electricity to the place, etc. So it's more the project management piece of it. A lot of the staff who were working on establishing the hydrogen sulfide monitoring network are the same staff who were working on all these other monitoring stations. And so it's those competing priorities that sometimes get in the way of, okay, now we're addressing this emergency, but we have to put these other projects in the back burner. So that's part of what we're trying to balance, also as we continue to respond to the crisis, is making sure that we are getting the resources out there to the community, but also trying to get all these other projects moving. And sometimes, unfortunately, there are delays that we experience because of that.
So were there, as a result of our response to the creation of this AIRE program, then were there delays to the implementation of our air monitors in National City, which are two, or the PAIR program, the distribution of DPM filters?
It's a little bit of both. So the implementation of the AIRE program, is in a different unit than the monitoring staff. So we're talking about two separate issues. The PAIR 2.0 program is one side of the house. The monitoring is another. So I just addressed the monitoring because of the monitors in National City that you mentioned.
And on the PAIR program, that would be under my shop, and it's a similar answer, right? Like staff that would have been working on the development and implementation of PAIR program basically redirected to focus those efforts on getting these purifiers out into something.
Got it. And by the way, and I don't mind that, I don't regret that, right? So, but I just, in terms of sustainability and moving forward, that's where I want to be clear. So then if we move forward with this existing motion and allocate this $1 million from the AB 617 interest reserve, will that further delay the implementation of the PAIR program, the two monitors and those coming online, or for that matter, any other AB 617 previously allocated project or program?
For the PAIR program, I think the answer is yes, because it's the same staff who would be working on the.
Yes, it will delay it.
Yes, it would delay it.
Okay.
For other AB 6,
that's a concern, by the way, for the board and member AIRE. That's a concern for me. I'm not opposed. That's just a concern, but please continue.
And then for the other AB 617 incentive projects, I don't anticipate any delays specifically related to this program, the implementation of the AIRE program. And then I'll let Domingo answer on the monitoring.
There would be an impact on the monitors for the.
Well, the monitors are already established, as I understand, but the collecting of data.
We're still working on establishing the monitoring sites. One of them, they're at different stages of completion, but we're anticipating that by this fiscal year, both will be online.
Okay, so I'm not opposed. That's a concern of mine. Other question, I was concerned, and I appreciate the principal, David Blair, coming to let us know that they don't have filters at their school. So have we covered the most sensitive concentrated sites? So sensitive use areas of schools, senior centers, clinics, daycares. Are there still gaps in some of those kind of higher concentrated, really sensitive areas?
I think it's fair to say there are still gaps there. We're continuing to having conversations with various school districts and daycares. I would be interested in speaking with Mr. Blair. There is one, there are some limitations with the state funding and the ability to use those for private schools, unfortunately. I've started some communication with CARB to see if we can figure out if there's any wiggle room there, but that is one of the hurdles associated with using this particular pot of funding for private schools.
Got it. What would be the concern with the private schools?
There's, the initial conversations I've had with.
Maybe that might be a legal question too. It's your legal counsel.
That CARB talks about in the state constitution, that you're using public funds for, a sectarian school is what they specifically, like a sectarian school.
Okay, got it. And off the top of my head, I would think that any sensitive use, whether it's youth, that would cover some of those legal issues, but we can, that's going to get to that later. That might be at least an explanation of why we don't have that. So these.
Fair. Can I ask you just a brief follow-up?
Yes.
Maybe we can get an actual legal analysis of that, because I have some concerns with just, if they just say that, like secular, non-secular, or whatever, that's the reason. I would like to see what actually is the reasoning, meaning and writing, like the law that they're referring to, because there's a unanimous Supreme Court case that came down that changed quite a bit of the view of secular versus non-secular and what that means to the government, as opposed to the old, limit test where you could exclude all religious entities and not, as long as you want to exclude them all, choose between them. If they change, there's a lot of things out there. I'd like to really get into that, because we're giving it to private homeowners, right? They're getting, some private homeowners are getting, they're all private people, they're getting the public, but the private individuals in their private homes are getting it.
Yeah, so you're treating it all private, community members similarly, but the schools, public versus private.
So that's where I think the Supreme Court has made a specific analysis. It's similar to that and analogous, because they said in regard to speech that this unanimous Supreme Court case from just a couple years ago, and it said before you could prohibit speech you could prohibit religious use of public facilities as long as you treated them all the same and everybody else could use it. And then that unanimous case came down and said, no, secular and non-secular speech is treated the same and equally. It's not to be treated separately. So now religious institutions have the same right to rent public space as non-religious institutions, and you can't discriminate between the two like we could for the last 60 years before this unanimous case. So I think it's analogous to this type of situation in regard to schools.
Yeah, so we can further investigate that and the language in our grant agreement and correspondence card.
And I guess my final comment on it would just go to what Mayor Gloria eventually talking about, but if we did explore private funding, we might have another funding source. Michael's point, they would allow that and not have restrictions, and it turns out it's so because I can tell you for a fact that the Gates Foundation triples what we raise in Coronado Rotary. There is San Diego Foundation there. This, as you pointed out, they're limited very quickly. You can see the dollars go to filters. There's even organizations like Focus, Friends of Children United Society, which buys the actual filter of the product as opposed to donating anybody to do that. They'll buy products for use in underserved communities in South Carolina. Anyways, I would urge that type of grant writing both publicly and also raising on the public side. Private side. Sorry, Chip, thank you.
No, thank you, Member Duncan. I do agree, staff can do that analysis. And I would just think, unless there was some other legal issue, I would want these private institutions that serve sensitive uses like youth, I would want they to be eligible. So we can figure out if it's not or that. So I understand if you can't answer that here, but if you can look into that. So with that kind of leads to my other question. Does staff know how many filters have been requested and not been distributed?
Currently
that we ran out. So how many are kind of left out right now?
We've approved distribution of over 10,400 purifiers. I think at this point, there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,100 pending applications that we have, with, the potential allocation of this additional million. I think we could service that, rather directly. And then, there's a number of applications that come in that are not eligible for a variety of reasons as well. So I'm speaking specifically of the applications that would be eligible. So about 1,100 more pending currently.
So the 1,100, we don't have the existing. So we've already distributed all of our filters that we have. Is that correct?
Maybe it's a better way to answer the question. Out of the 2.7 million that we were allocated, we have about $200,000 left from that initial allocation.
And how many filters would that provide? Rough estimate?
Roughly 800-ish. I guess 800, 900. So again, the majority of the current pending applications would probably be funded with the dollars we have. And then if we look to go to additional household with this $1 million kind of in that short term, we should be able to accommodate that. But under the caveat that was under the current distribution model, like I believe the motion.
Okay, so last comment I'll make, and I'll turn it back over to member AIRE for restate your motion, whatever comments or questions you have. So I would not want to see, so I don't know if we can, if this could be adjusted in the motion or if it's staff needs to come back to this. So I want to limit or restrict any further delays of some of the already projects that we're working on, like, and it sounds like you agree with that too, like, talk about that. Okay, that's cool. So about on I'm just talking about National City, but there could be other areas, but that's just where we saw that there was that delay in that gap. So the PAIR program, the AIRE monitors, which sounds like isn't as big an issue, that's already handled, but so I'm okay with this 1 million allotting these funds, but I don't want that to come further at the expense of the projects that we've had that we've already delayed, especially not when I look at that funding, it's not equitable. This how much APCD has spent on something that I philosophically believe is not just APCD's jurisdiction. Like, yes, we're AIRE, and this is a health issue, but this is really, if we're going to talk about jurisdiction, which even though it should be our collective moral, everyone, cities and the state, the feds, but I really feel strongly that the county really, and particularly the county public health, and especially given how much larger they are than APCD, I really think that the county needs to spend a lot more. I know you're going to talk about that and you're working on that, but that's just, I don't want to continue because then it starts to hurt, my community, so that's the only, so if there's a way to work that out or caveat that.
I have some ideas. Well, first, I just want to speak to the fact that for the monitors, my office granted APCD $50,000 for monitors for National City, Byron, Logan, San Isidro. So wanted to mention that. Secondly, my office can help with funding for to help offset any delays, because nobody wants delays to the PAIR program or to the AIRE program, right? So my office is can help bridge that gap in the very short term, because I don't want to see that happen at all. Secondly, we did some consultation with our county HR, and this, I guess, a question for staff. Is there an ability to hire temporary expert professionals so that nothing gets delayed? We could maybe hire 1 or 2 that could maybe, prevent any delays for the PAIR program, prevent any delay for the AIRE program, and maybe even engage in some grant writing.
So we had asked our in-house HR that question, and we're told that with existing county classifications, they wouldn't be eligible for TEP. I did have a brief conversation with Brandy Linderbaum today, right before the hearing where we appeared. And I think she was going to look into some creative ideas.
Yeah, they told us
so
it's possible, yes.
So yes, I can follow up with her on that.
That'd be great.
Again, it's something that would take a bit of time while we sort through that. That process, because generally temporary expert professionals are folks that are already identified that you're able to bring on board. So we would need to go through a process to do that if we're going to bring on any new staff. I mean, the other, temporary, correct. The other concept that we did include in the assessment is the possibility of looking at contractor support for pieces of the program. If we were to move forward with AIRE 2.0 as well as IDA at the same time, there may be some economies of scale in looking at an RFP that could bring on contractor support for both of those. So just another concept to explore.
Thank you for that. And I think that's also going to depend on our fundraising efforts, right? I also wanted to share that I met with a number of different, I actually convened a meeting with philanthropy groups sharing the need for this program, in addition to the requests that we have already engaged our congressional delegation with from their individual offices. There's funding there as well. I'm speaking more to this, bridge funding that would get us to where we need to be by April, with support from my office as we figure out a great funding strategy, right? To fully implement something a little bit more permanent that doesn't delay the PAIR program, that doesn't delay the AIRE program.
We can certainly explore that and then look at it in terms of, what the training resources would need to be and what the timing for that would be, as opposed to continuing with existing staff. So we'll make some comparisons. But I think those are
I'm good
all.
with that. Do you all need to adjust the I am good with that, as long as there's understanding, does the motion need to be adjusted for that?
I think so. I mean, I think those are all great suggestions and some options to look through.
It's on the record, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And the last thing I'll say on the federal, and then we'll go ahead and call the vote. But like on the federal piece, if we can even look at maybe an APCD hosted funded delegation trip to DC, to EPA. And I would really encourage, like, I'm just gonna be real here, and the politics is a thing where there's Democrats here, there's Republicans here, this is a Republican administration, and we have Republican board members, and I think it makes sense to have some of our Republican or those who identify as Republican come to this delegation trip and to help us lobby, because a lot of this is question of resources. I think this is like the feds really need to need to fund this, and it's not about Republican or Democrat, because Biden had massively failed us on this issue, so I'll say that. But but I don't want to keep pointing fingers. It's just like we have the money now. Like, it's incredible what our federal government spends money on across the world. And what is this, 15? I'm sorry. Yeah, a lot of different things. I don't want to start getting into it. We have a million different examples, but what this program is going to be anywhere from 6 to 12 million. That is like such a tiny drop in the bucket. And so if we can do a bipartisan, delegation trip to DC or something, because this is such little money. So that's the only thing it is. So don't see any other members who didn't get to speak. Want to speak? Okay, with that, we will go ahead and call the vote. We have a motion from member Guerra and a second from member Dr. Campbell. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. With members Gomez and Lawson Reamer absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Great. With that, we will move on to thank you for the members of the public and staff who worked on this item. So with that, I am going to turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Dr. Burke Garcia to run the rest of the meeting. There's like one item left I can do that. Yeah, so we will move on to item D3, which is our strategic plan. Clerk, can you provide public testimony instructions?
5, 6. You're good over there. I'm fine, but if you want to talk, yeah, you can check.
Sorry, folks.
Just give us a couple minutes while we transition over.
Sorry.
You know what? Let's. I'm going to go ahead and call it 5 minute break. Yeah. So we will convene at 4:40 with Vice Chair Rebecca Garcia.
Is that?
Any
Thank you all for your patience with us while I play musical chairs here. The next agenda item is D3, the SDAPCD strategic plan for 2026 to 2030. Madam Clerk, do you mind providing the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Vice Chair Bernadette Garcia. For the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Bernadette Garcia and board members. It's a privilege to be here with you today to present a proposal for our long-term strategic plan. The proposed plan is a blueprint for how we will improve air quality, protect public health, promote environmental justice, and ensure clean air for all San Diegans over the next decade. This proposal is the result of years of stakeholder engagement, internal collaboration, and a rigorous assessment of both the challenges we face and the opportunities ahead. It sets a clear direction and aligns our efforts to meet evolving air quality needs in our region. It's important to remember that the strategic plan is intended to be a living document. At the end of the presentation, I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to be moving it forward and tracking it over time. But if we could go on to the next slide, please. Just an overview for the presentation today. Given the hour, we'll move through it relatively quickly. With me today is Lillian Meza, our program coordinator for legislative and public affairs. But in today's presentation, we're going to talk about how the plan was developed, the engagement process that we went through, the structure of the plan and proposed strategies, a little bit of an overview of some of the comments received during the public comment period, as well as next steps. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lillian.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Paula. Next slide, please. At the core of the strategic plan is our vision and mission. Our vision and everything in this plan is designed to move us closer to our vision and mission. Improving air quality through fair, effective, and science-based programs served as our compass throughout the planning process. To ensure our mission is reflected in all aspects of our work, we needed clear direction. That direction comes from the 5 overarching goals previously approved by this board. These goals define the broad, long-term outcomes we are committed to achieving. Every strategy in the strategic plan was intentionally developed to advance progress in these areas. The goals serve as the strategic backbone of the translating our vision and mission into practical, actionable, and measurable focus points by our work across the functions. Next slide. This slide conveys the extensive outreach conducted to ensure the strategic plan reflects the needs and priorities of the cities we serve. We engaged a broad range of stakeholders, including residents, environmental advocates, regulated entities, and agency partners, through surveys, public workshops, and direct meetings. Their input was instrumental in shaping the plan's goals, strategies, and goals. Next slide, please. In addition to the initial development process, SDPACD conducted extensive outreach on the draft strategic plan. A working draft was presented to the Planning and Policy Committee 3 times to gather board member input and direction. The draft plan was then published on October 17, 2025 for public review. SDAPCD re-engaged with public stakeholder groups, including the Air Industry Working Group and the Environmental Justice Partnership, and provided opportunities for public comment through the district website and social media platforms. Written comments were received from the Port of San Diego and the Industrial Environmental Association, along with additional comments submitted through the online portal and social. Next slide, please. Public and stakeholder input on the draft strategic plan centered around several major themes. We heard strong support for expanding air monitoring, especially with clear targets and community involvement in selecting locations. Stakeholders also encouraged deeper public health partnerships to better connect air quality and health outcomes. There were also requests for clear criteria to identify the most impacted communities. There was a call to improve engagement tools such as maps, complaint systems, and language access, and for stronger communication with both community members and the regulated community.
Finally, commenters highlighted concerns about enforcement capacity, long-term resources, and issues like cross-border pollution and neighborhood level sources such as wood burning and diesel trucks. This feedback helps to refine the strategic plan and ensures it reflects the priorities of our region. Next slide. The strategic plan is organized to be clear, accessible, and easy to navigate. The front section presents the core elements of the plan, beginning with a 5-year vision statement and executive summary, followed by background information about SDPACD and an overview of how the plan was developed. The heart of the document, or goals and objectives, lays the strategic direction of the district, while the tracking our progress section explains how we will measure results and maintain accountability. To support transparency and readability, the appendices compile detailed information on including ongoing programs, existing SDPACD plans, a summary of stakeholder engagement, and the full list of objectives, actions, timeframes, and metrics. This structure ensures that readers can quickly understand the high-level direction while also having access to the detailed information that supports the implementation. Next slide. Our 5-year vision outlines where we aspire to be as a district by 2030, and it reflects bold, measurable, transformative goals that match the scale of the challenges facing our region. These vision statements are intentionally audacious. They set clear expectations for achieving federal air quality standards, reducing health risks from toxic emissions, and delivering meaningful improvements in the communities most affected by air pollution. The vision also goes beyond air quality outcomes. It includes expanding community scale monitoring, strengthening partnerships with local, state, federal, and tribal governments, ensuring our permitting, enforcement, and monitoring data are easily accessible and importantly, the vision recognizes that SDPACD must continue to evolve as an organization. It commits us to improving operational efficacy, efficiency, and delivering high-quality assistance services to regulated entities, community members, and all stakeholders. Together, these statements paint a picture of what success looks like. Not just cleaner air, but stronger partnerships, more empowered communities, and more effective and responsive air. Next slide. The strategies outlined in this plan are designed to advance our mission and help achieve our vision of clean air for all. Each strategy aligns with our district's overarching goals, reflects our commitment to delivering meaningful measuring progress. Air quality strategies include expanding our regional air monitoring network to better measure our progress in reducing particulate matter and attaining ozone standards, as well as the development of mobile monitoring resources. Next slide. SDPACD will implement public health strategies to identify the risks from air toxic emissions and other associated health risks to communities by expanding our air purifier distribution program, providing direct community initiatives, and enhancing our incident response. Next slide, please. Environmental justice to better serve the communities most impacted by air pollution by continuing the integration of environmental justice initiatives, SDPACD programs, and rulemaking processes. We will also continue to work with communities, regional working groups, and government partners to implement strategies identified through our emission reduction. Next slide, please. SDAPCD will expand its public engagement and visibility by enhancing our mapping tools, developing air quality educational programs, recognition of air quality champions through our Clean Air for All programs, and engagement with community agency partners and legislators. We will also work on expanding our outreach on programs. Next slide, please. Operational excellence will help ensure that internal policies and procedures are consistent to enable staff to expand our online resources, upgrade core systems, and employee training. Overall, improving our core structure to advance SDAPCD strategies. Sorry, I went really quickly, but I know it's been a long day, so I'll toss it back to Paula.
Thank you, Melina. Next slide, please. You get the award for the fastest strategies. Okay, so next steps. If the plan is adopted by the governing board, we will develop detailed work plans outlining the steps, resources, and staffing needs for each action. The annual budget process will be the time when we identify resource gaps and funding strategies, and we'll track and report metrics annually to show our progress, benefits, and areas for improvement. We will also be reporting back through our clean air Sorry, it has been a long day. The Clean Air Annual Report. Lost that one. Thank you. The ongoing review ensures transparency, accountability, and responsiveness to community needs, supporting our commitment to clean air for all. Next slide, please. So the requested action for you today is to consider and adopt the long-term strategic plan for 2026 to 2030. Thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this matter?
Thank you, Vice Chair Burkett Garcia. We have 3 members of the public that wish to provide public testimony. I'm going to call all 3 names and you can just come up one after the other. You'll have 2 minutes, I believe, still to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record. So we'll have Jack Munger, Cynthia Fuller Quinones, and Philip Gibbons.
Hello again, Jack Munger with IEA. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this with you today. And we provided these comments as was noted earlier, but I really would like to share them with you and some deeper explanation because I hope they'll be included in the work plan. It sounds like that might be the appropriate time. What we're talking about is metrics and acknowledging that San Diego has changed dramatically over the last decade. We've got state modeled emissions, county health outcomes, and air monitoring data that have all shifted in ways that defy assumptions of them just 5 years ago. At the same time, the draft strategic plan places a significant emphasis on environmental justice, appropriately so, but without clearly defining what areas in San Diego County face injustice, what metrics staff will use to identify those and new areas over time, nor which data sources will guide that determination. Without objective criteria, the district cannot adapt as new information emerges. Without clear metrics, we risk missing communities whose burdens increase over time. And without transparent definitions, we may reinforce outdated assumptions instead of responding to the current reality. EJ cannot be served by a plan that is fixed where it should be flexible or general where it should be precise. If communities outside current focus areas start to show higher burdens, whether in asthma, COPD, elemental carbon, or diesel exposure, the plan must be capable of recognizing that and acting on it. Otherwise, we risk doing the very thing we seek to prevent, and that is committing an injustice by omission. So we encourage you to adopt a strategic plan that clearly defines EJ criteria, specifies data sources, and ensures that the district can dynamically target support to the communities who need it most. And you certainly have demonstrated that in how you've treated the Tijuana sewage issue over the last year. So we know it's possible, and we just wanted to add those comments in. So thank you for the opportunity.
Good afternoon. As you may know, I'm Cynthia Fuller Quinones. I'm in National City. I'm part of what's called the Healthy Culturas Coalition. I'm also a National City Traffic Safety Manager, a Commissioner and Sheriff. Thank you especially for everything in the plan to lift and address the needs of communities most affected by air pollution, by integrating environmental justice and equity across all services SDAPCD offers. So important and for our community in National City. In supporting National City, please be aware that we're now seeking help also from California Coastal Commission as of yesterday with their approval of our balanced plan, which unfortunately leaves some vital community needs, air quality being one of them, too little addressed. We do expect the port to be coming along, helping the city and the port in the following ways: addressing community members' longstanding need for fuller remedy of waterfront access, which is currently too much denied, and long overdue reduction of other harm by Title M tenants, starting with far too many acres of heat generating parking lots, which exacerbate our already too high levels of air pollution. The balanced plan is great as far as it goes, but it doesn't offer enough progress with respect to those items. Let's skip a little bit. For improved environmental justice and equity in National City, there can be no more status quo. We're really depending on the SDAPCD to help us step up. We have been settling for crumbs for far too long, and there aren't enough now, and really there never were. We really need help from you guys. Also know that, thank you. One thing though, I really must say that David Soderman and all the folks working on getting us our air monitors. Oh my God, thank you so much. We've needed that for so long, and it's going to make an incredible difference for us. Kudos to them and for all their efforts. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Chair, members of the board. I'm Phil Gibbons with the Port of San Diego, and I'm joined by my colleague Jason Giffen in the far corner of the room. He's our Chief Sustainability and Innovation Officer over at the port. First, I just want to commend staff and the board for initiating this effort and developing this strategic plan. We're grateful for you reaching out to us and including us in the engagement process. Your emphasis on protecting public health and reducing pollution is very clear, and it's a bold vision in the strategic plan. From the portside communities to the Tijuana River watershed, the port and APCD have been working very closely over the last several years to advance zero emission technologies, monitor air quality, and mitigate the impacts of pollution. Our collective efforts are demonstrating the ability for agencies like ours to develop innovative incentives and bring external resources into our region, which is essential for cleaner technologies and to improve air quality. We are appreciative of the focus on collaboration, as we believe the partnership among APCD, the port, industry, community members, and other local governments can lead to better outcomes and lasting change. As we indicated in our letter, we support the plan's objectives for transparency, making air quality data accessible and understandable. In conclusion, we support the strategic plan, and the board is committed to working with you to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Are there any comments from any of my colleagues? Go ahead. Member Rita.
Thank you for all your work on this. It's very exciting to have all the different categories and the efforts and obviously vision for us moving forward. I was just curious if we were going to explicitly include the Tijuana River crisis.
So it's not included specifically as a separate item, but there are elements in the plan that definitely speak to it. So the hydrogen sulfide mobile monitoring unit, expansion of the air purifier program. There's also a strategy, I'm just looking for the number, that would have us partner with research agencies and research entities and CBOs to evaluate the effectiveness of purifiers. So it's not specifically called out by name. I don't, well, it may be in other locations. But there's definitely elements that support all of that work.
Could we add that to the air quality section, the public health section, and environmental health? Sorry, environmental justice section. To say it explicitly.
So
my understanding is from the public stakeholder input, they wanted us to look at issues that may be outside of our direct regulatory authority, such as climate change, indoor air quality, and binational environmental concerns related to the Tijuana River Valley and cross-border pollution. So, I mean, that's also the public giving us that feedback.
sure. So what we can do is look at the existing proposed actions that would support the efforts in the Tijuana River Valley and specifically state it.
Yeah, let's be critically.
Yeah, so you said air quality, public health, and environmental justice.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Member Duncan.
You can certainly put including but not limited to.
Sure,
whatever
yeah.
Language, but so my question was, I thought Mr. Monger's comments were very interesting. I've had similar discussions like that in Sandag on other issues. And I was curious, good.
Okay. So it is reflected under.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, we can. Sorry.
No problem. So I'm curious as to what, if you have a response to his comments, do you think that the way the plan is currently drafted, those types of concerns are questions or something that is going to be, you know, it's flexible enough, right, to incorporate his comments? So it's my take, but I wanted to see what you or Domingo whoever like.
Sure, I can take the question and then we can add on. Yes, we met with Jack last week, earlier this week. And talked through the comments in some detail. And that's we did acknowledge that as we look at work plans moving forward, we can identify metrics, updated information. Generally we focus on the data, right? And so and make data-driven decisions. And so we did commit to continuing to do that as we develop work plans for different initiatives and actions. Maybe if you want to.
Sure, we are currently also working with the California Air Resources Board staff to get updated information on emission inventories for the communities that we're engaging with. And we're also engaging with other communities across the county, not only the ones selected through the AB 617 program. So we're already expanding our reach to see what the needs are in other environmental justice areas.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the more data, the better, and not to be, because I'm in Mayor of Coronado, but in Coronado, for instance, our population more than doubles during the day. And it's mostly enlisted personnel, many of which live in those areas, and often the air quality is the same or worse where they're working in Coronado or Logan. So it's I think that type of data analysis is so key to accomplishing our ultimate mission. Right? And also, I know Marcus isn't here right now, our chair, but when he was talking about he doesn't necessarily see the neighborhood battering each other, I agree, because the earlier testimony was the carcinogen, output, whatever you want to call it, diesel, et cetera, particulate matter at the border is as bad or worse than anywhere else, which is also ridiculous. So, anyways, I support our ultimate mission. I support this. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'm happy to second it if Supervisor Geary is.
Okay, perfect. So we have a motion by Supervisor Geary and second by Mayor Douglas. And then let's go ahead and call this, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. With members Bush, Campbell, Gomez, Koval, and Lawson are absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. And then the air pollution control officer report.
I have 10 short items to. That's a good. I have one short item, and that is just to note for the board that the AB 652, which was authored by Assemblymember Alvarez, did pass and will go into effect on January 1st. That legislation will allow for alternates to be appointed to the governing board, and it specifies that those alternates will be appointed in the same fashion and by the same bodies that as the primary member. So more to come on that. We don't have all the details on that mapped out, but for those of you that went through the city selection committee process last year, there's another one of those in our future, and we'll be appointing alternates through that process in the coming months. We'll be in touch. Thank you. And then the public members will be appointed by the elected members. Thank you.
Member Duncan, did you have a comment?
I think she answered. I was just gonna say, so CFC's aware and they'll have to call the meeting, or they will be aware shortly.
They will be aware shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that adjourns our meeting for today. Our next SDAPCD governing board meeting will be held on February 12th, 2026 at 2 p.m. This meeting is adjourned. Happy New Year, everybody.